Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku made a friend before starting UA Part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see Part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗺𝗵𝗃𝗲. So let's start the video. March 31st, 2014. This was it. I stared at the mailbox before slipping my letters into the slot. Within a week's time I would learn where I would be going and how I would have to work towards the future I wanted. 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗲 have officially applied to all the nearby hero schools, and this would be the first step in starting my future. Sometime later, April 3rd, I sigh, wiping down the shelf after I took all the old stock off of it. Who knew the first step would take so long? I checked the mail anxiously every day, hoping that the responses would come, but I'm getting ahead of myself. It's only been 3 days since I mailed them. I sigh again, wiping my forehead with the back of my hand. Something bothering you today, Kasii? I hear behind me. My head turns, blonde hair falling and covering my face. I push the overgrown bangs back and look at the manager. His frame towers over me as I sit on the floor stocking the lower shelves. His glasses sit low on his aged face, short brown hair turning gray at the ends, and he's dressed in his brightly colored manager's uniform. The shiny orange name tag displaying, Asuya Gym General Manager/Owner. I sheepishly rub the back of my neck. No. I'm waiting for my admission letters. I admit, my eyes darting to the side. I feel embarrassment burn through me as he bellows with laughter. He crouches down slowly beside me as he continues to chuckle, before placing a hand on my shoulder. You sent those out Monday, have some patience, kiddo. The schools won't spirit. He responds, reassuring me. I chuckle lightly. Ghost me, the term is ghost me, Jim. I respond, facing the shelf I'm stocking again. He rubs the back of his neck, smiling at himself. You sure? I thought it was spirit. Well, whatever. I really can't keep up with your hip phrases. Quit making me feel old. Jim groans as he gets up, dusting his off. He looks over my stock for the day. If you keep worrying, you'll never finish the stock rotation before your shift is done. He calls over his shoulder and walks away, most likely on his way to re-wipe a counter. He's always been particular about that. I smile softly to myself. Thank Jim, I say under my breath, now slightly cheered up. I make sure he's gone before I use my quirk to teleport the new cans on the shelf. My eyes glow slightly, my naturally blue eyes turning to more of a shade of ice blue. To use my quirk, I have to look at an object. In my vision, I watch as the item is wrapped in a thin glow, something only I see. If the item was partially covered but I knew what it was supposed to look like, my quirk vision would still outline the covered section. I just need to see a part of the object. In this case, it's cans of tomato soup. The next guideline I need to meet for my quirk is I need to visualize the place I'm sending the items in my mind. It has to be an actual memory of my own, not a picture of a place I've seen. I recall the shelf I was just wiping down. In my vision, I line the cans in a row of 3. The next part is hard to explain. It's like explaining breathing. I basically just acknowledge that I'm teleporting the item. Imagine a twitch of your finger or a forced blink. It's like that. I just do it. With that explained, I move 3 of the cans onto the back part of the shelf. I smile, repeating this process until the shelf is stocked, physically placing the last 2 old cans ahead of the new. I know this sounds silly. With a teleportation quirk I could do more than stock shelves at age 14 in the local convenience store, but not in my case. When I was 4, I went to the quirk assessment doctors with my mom. I was so excited that day, bouncing in the chair, only to be told that I might be quirkless. I didn't have the disjointed pinky toe, but my quirk had no signs of appearing yet. The return home was quiet. I was a little sad but still hopeful, while my mom didn't speak to me much, just a soft, "It'll be okay." For the next couple of years my parents waited patiently, my time being split with my mom or dad on their weeks. It was my 6th birthday when the doctors officially labeled me quirkless. My dad learned of the news first, since he took me to the doctor that time. He looked at me and said, "You're going to be all right, Kasii. There are plenty of people without quirks. It's not the end of the world." I tried my best to block out the yelling when Dad told Mom the news. I hid away in my bedroom, protected under the covers while reading a picture book about heroes. Thankfully, my tears didn't stain the cardboard pages and I read about the powers I would never have. But then it happened. 2 years later, at 8 years old, I developed my quirk. I won't go into details now, but let's say it was a hard day. Imagine going through something terrifying and then waking up at home naked. I blush, remembering the first time I teleported. Back then I didn't know how to teleport my clothes with me. It's different now though. Afterwards I tried to tell my mom about my quirk. She demanded I show her, but I couldn't remember how I did it. Now looking back on it, my energy levels were probably too weak to use it. I always wonder why my quirk didn't appear at 4. My guess is that my quirk relies on my mental awareness, so when I began to mature, it made its appearance. I finished stocking the bottom shelf with all its items, moving up to the next shelf and emptying it with my hands. I wiped the shelf down and think back to when I was 10. My mom was having a get-together, and I met Jim while trying to sneak a snack from the kitchen. Mom prefers I stay hidden most of the time when she has guests. I knew me being quirkless bothered her, though she would never say that. After how she reacted when I couldn't show her I had developed my quirk, I started staying out of the way. I accidentally bumped into Jim that day. He was kind to me. He asked Mom why he's never seen me before and he learned I was quirkless. He started bringing me gifts and I learned he was the owner of the store I now work at. The coolest thing is he only hires quirkless people because they struggle the most to get a job. My eye twitches, remembering how I constantly lied to Jim, since I would be fired if he found out. I hate that I have to lie, but it's better this way. I'm worried he will treat me differently. Would he say I was mocking everyone who was quirkless for pretending? I don't want to find out. It already hurt how everyone changed when I was labeled quirkless. Mom told me it would be okay, but it wasn't. So no matter how anyone treats my quirklessness, I won't tell them. Soon I'll head off to school and start my life with a quirk. So that's my plan. I'll keep quiet here, and then I can live a life where I don't have to lie and say I'm quirkless. I finish up the next shelf. This time I have to take my now empty boxes and head to storage so I can grab the stock for the next shelves. The store is quite small, packed wall to wall with items to be bought. I've gotten used to the overwhelming amount of things there are, but that's another plus of this job. I have an employee cup and I get free refills on coffee, tea, or other dispensed drinks, as well as a discount on snacks, which I need plenty of with my quirk. Teleporting items takes a toll on my energy. When I was 8, I passed out after teleporting myself. Now, it depends on the object. The larger the size, the more energy it takes. Also, if it's alive, my energy depletes even faster. Thankfully, food and drinks can replace it. As long as I consume something, my energy replenishes in no. For some reason, some snacks work better than others, but I don't know why. I hum, making my way around the aisle. There's a door past the bathrooms that I walk up to. Inputting the code on the keypad, the door unlocks and I go inside. I break down the cardboard boxes, throwing them in the recycling bin, before grabbing more boxes of stock. Jim always worries because of how much I grab, enough to block my vision. I like the small strength training, since I don't get much time to train. Stacking the boxes high, I carefully head back to the shelf I was at, crouching as I set down the stack. Next load already. I saw the stack over the aisle. Seriously, kid, don't overwork yourself. Jim calls, rounding the corner again. I look up with a cheeky grin. It's faster this way. Now I have more time to worry over those letters. I grin in response, a joking tone in my voice. He chuckles, walking over to me and rubbing my head. I giggle, closing my eyes and leaning into the noogie. Yeah, keep that attitude up and I'll have you wipe down everything in the store. He threatens. I look up at him with a mock gasp. No way. I'll be on my best behavior. I swear, I say dramatically as I give him a mock salute. We both laugh this time and he shakes his head. Either way, slow down or you'll have a bad back like me when you get old. He scolds. I nod, turning back to the shelf as I continue my work. Jim comes around a couple more times, mainly when there's no customers in the store. He likes to talk to the locals and be close in case of emergencies. I also think it's in case any of his workers get harassed for being quirkless. I glance over at the banned customers list with a sigh. While Jim hires the quirkless, he has a quirk himself called Shush. He can mute anyone in a 50-foot range of him, but it's like Bluetooth, since it wears off when they leave that range. He uses it to mute harassers, who have to leave the store to be able to speak again. The coolest part is it reactivates if they step back into his range. I laugh slightly, thinking of a customer who stormed back into the store when he could talk again, only to leave red-faced and embarrassed when he couldn't speak in the store. Hoshi was working the counter that day. I peek around the shelves to see her ringing up a customer today. I hate that someone as sweet as her has to deal with that kind of treatment just because she's quirkless. Even though I'm not quirkless, I'm treated like I am, and I don't understand how people can be so cruel for something out of our control. I shake my head, finishing the repetitive procedure of restocking. I'm finally done by 9:30 p.m., so I clean up, make fresh coffee, and take the trash out. 10:05 the next shift worker rolls in. Wow. You're early today, Haru-kun. I tease as he walks in. He looks at me with a sigh. Har, laugh it up. I'll have you know I'm barely late. He responds, hanging up his coat and leaving his belongings in his work locker. He fixes his name tag before walking behind the counter. Hoshi is grabbing her clothes to leave for the night. Have a nice shift, Haru. Get home safe, Sora. Hoshi calls on her way out. I wave to her, wishing her a safe trip as well. I decide to grab some snacks before I leave and make my way towards Haru with my selections. I snort at him. Late is still late, but I don't mind as long as I get to leave eventually, I say, setting up my snacks on the counter. A rule of our store is that if you want to buy anything, another employee has to ring you up. Haru scans my protein drinks, a bag of chips and peanuts. All my usual snacks. I let him know all the work I did and he smiles, leaning over the counter slightly. You're the only one who can finish rotating stock. This is why I love coming in after you. He says, always relieved when I tell him this. It means he will have less work to do for the night shift. Mainly stocking the stuff I'm too young to do and keeping coffee fresh. I smirk, my eyes lighting up. I almost beat my record today. One day I will finish stocking a shelf in under 10 minutes. I say jokingly. He laughs, shaking his head. I walk behind the counter to my staff locker. Throwing on my black hoodie, pulling up the hood that's adorned with black cat ears. I grab my plain backpack and turn back to the counter, bumping Haru out of the way playfully. He rolls his eyes as my hip bumps into him before stepping back. Why yes, Sora, I will move out of the way. Thank you so much for asking. He mocks. I snort again, shoving all my snacks from the counter into my bag and throwing it over my shoulder. I shoot him a finger gun with my free hand. Why thank you so much, you drama king. Now have a nice night. I call, before rushing towards the storage room now that I'm free. Bye, Jim. See you tomorrow. I holler over my shoulder, running through the back and out the employee entrance. He chuckles while waving at me, amused by my childish energy. I always have to say goodbye to him, being the youngest employee. He worries about me. He usually leaves for the night after I head home, so it's an unspoken rule. It's dark when I leave, the time being after 10, and I make my way out of the alley onto the street. Home is a quick 8-minute walk. I avoid people on the way there, not that there's many out. I find the front door locked and I sigh. We don't have a spare key hidden outside, and so I'm forced to walk around the porch. I keep a window unlocked for this reason, opening it and climbing inside. Shutting the window behind me, I sneak through the house quietly, moving towards the kitchen to put my drinks in the fridge for tomorrow, before heading to the bathroom. After going through my hygiene routine, I go upstairs. Entering my room, I set my bag on my desk and change into PJs. Then putting my phone on the charger and climbing into bed. I close my eyes, drifting off with thoughts of the responses for the entrance exams. Bang bang bang. April 4th. I wipe my eyes as the knocks hit my door. I groan sitting up. I'm awake. I call. My mother laughs. Good morning, Casey. I need your help downstairs soon, she says, walking down the hall. I grab my phone, checking the time. Come on, 4:53 today. I whine, looking at the early time. My usual alarm goes off at 6, but sometimes Mom wakes me up early to help clean the house. I yawn, climbing out of bed. She'll only get mad if I go back to sleep. Heading out the door and down the stairs, I notice the mess in the living room for the first time. There are beer bottles, empty cups, and plates everywhere. Some of the plates are empty, others with half-eaten food. I sigh, heading to the kitchen where Mom is. Did everyone have fun last night? I ask as I walk around her to grab cleaning supplies from under the sink. She's sitting at the counter, glasses on her face while looking at her computer. She takes a sip of coffee. Yeah, they left a bit early though. Since I have a double tonight. I hum, walking back to the living room with gloves on. I put the beer bottles in one bag and then the trash in another. Setting both those bags near the door, I return to collect the empty glasses and take them to the kitchen. I yawn again as I fill the sink, setting them in the water to soak, and I move back towards the living room. I start to wipe down all the hard surfaces. Mom, there are some stains on the couch. I call out. A few moments later she walks in shaking her head. I swear they get messier than kids. Where? She grumbles. I point and she hovers her hand over the brown stains. Her quirk shifts the liquor to water, and then I spray the couch with disinfectant. This was our routine. She would entertain guests at night. Then the next morning I'd clean up after them, and she would convert any stains to water. My mom's name is Sora Kasii and her quirk, conversion. She can manipulate the chemical composition of any item. She said that liquids were the easiest for her to learn back in the day, and now she's a skilled bartender. Everyone comes to her for the best drinks. She's also really good at noticing spiked drinks, so her bar is one of the safest. People will come over to our house and bring some beer. She'll change a bottled drink into something else, and everyone would make bets on what it is. I'm glad I work through most of those nights, since it can get pretty loud. I finish cleaning the living room and go back to the kitchen to work on dishes. What's breakfast today? I ask over my shoulder. She hums, staring at her computer. I'm feeling eggs over easy, bacon, and some gluten-free white toast, she responds. I agree, finishing the glasses, and I start on breakfast. Mom said as a quirkless kid I should know how to cook my own food. So every morning she chooses something for me to make. Sometimes the meals are hard, but she must want an easy bite today. I cook our food, my nose slightly curling up from the bacon. I'm not a fan of eating meat, since I have some classmates who are animal hybrids. I decided to stick to a vegetarian diet, and I haven't had too many problems with it. So it bothers me slightly when Mom asks me to cook meat. I plate our food, my eggs and toast, and her requested dish. Still not eating meat. Come on Kasii, bacon won't kill you. She says over her coffee. I smile and shake my head. Who knows? Maybe I'm allergic to it since I haven't had it in a while. It could kill me. I joke in response, my hand clutching dramatically at my chest. She shakes her head with a sigh, before going over her plans for the day. I nod along, listening. When I finish my food I wash my plate and the dishes from cooking breakfast. I'm going to go get ready for school now, I say, racing up the stairs. I change into my uniform for 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗃, random name, grabbing my book bag and phone. I set those on the stairs as I rush to the bathroom. When I'm done I grab my stuff in the trash bag on my way out. Bye Mom, love you. See you in the morning. I call as I leave. After taking out the trash, I head to school. It's nothing special. Nobody really goes out of their way to bully me, unless I talk to them. I hear some whispers when I walk by, but they don't bother me. Mainly because I can laugh about how wrong they are, that I do have a quirk. Some students just ignore me, and I really like them for that. Today goes by like usual, and soon I'm headed back home. I check the mailbox, my eyes widening as I see a couple thick envelopes under other letters. I take it all inside, sorting Mom and Dad's into piles before finding the ones for me. 2 plain white envelopes with the UA logo stamped on it. I rip one open excitedly, glancing over the contents, before I'm cheering loudly. Thank you for applying to UA's Hero course, where we teach the greatest heroes. Your application was accepted, and you are allowed to participate in this year's entrance exams. Below is information for the exam. We are excited to have a chance to see you go beyond. Plus Ultra. I stare, rereading the letter and looking at the information. I can't believe it, I get to participate in the UA Hero course. even though I'm registered as quirkless. I know they said that quirkless kids could apply now, but still. To actually be holding the proof that I can hit's different. I open the second letter and it's my acceptance letter for their general studies program. The school made me apply to it as a just-in-case factor, but I'm glad they did because now I can show this letter to my parents. Rushing upstairs, I grab my work uniform and race off to work to tell Jim. I leave behind my hero course letter, taking the general studies one to show them. I get to work about 20 minutes early, red-faced and eager to show them that the letter came. Jim's sweeping the floors when I barge into the store. I don't waste a second and run up to him with my letter. He takes it, reading the paper before congratulating me. I smile as he promises me the time off, not wasting a second to brag about me to my co-workers. This is great. Our youngest here is going to UA. I'm so proud of you, KCI. He says, rubbing my hair, which seems to actually tame the blonde mess. Maybe now 𝗵𝗃𝗲 will have to actually do his job. He calls. 𝗵𝗃𝗲, my male co-worker that's leaning against the counter, scoffs in reply. You joke, boss, but you know nobody can stalk as much as Sora does. You're going to run us into the ground when she leaves. He stands up, walking over to me and raises his fist. We'll miss your hard work when you get in, Sora. I bump his fist and laugh, bouncing in place. I can't believe it. Now I just have to pass the entrance exams. Do you think I can? I ask aloud, worried. Jim chuckles, his hand dropping onto my shoulder with a supportive squeeze. We've seen your grades here, kiddo. With all that studying you do on your breaks, you'll place in the top 10, I bet. He says. I smile wide, even though I know he's only talking about the written portion. General studies applicants don't take the hero course exam. But anyone who doesn't make it in the hero course has the option to go into general studies. I hug Jim tightly. It's moments like this where I want to tell him the most. But would he still be proud of me then? I close my eyes into the hug. It's better to not know. All right, get to work. I'm not paying you to stand around. That means you too, 𝗵𝗃𝗲, Jim says. He pats my back before pushing my shoulders away softly. I grin. Face it, you'd pay me just for my hugs. I tease. He chuckles, not saying I'm wrong. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 laughs too, going back behind the counter as a customer walks in. Just for that, you can go clean the slushy machine. Hop to it. Jim points. I fake pout, moving to put my stuff away and change into my uniform. I'm walking past him again when his hand stops me by grabbing my shoulder. Good job, kiddo. He squeezes before letting go and heading back to work himself. I beam, practically skipping to the slushy machine. As I'm taking it apart and wiping the machine out, I happen to hear the news. The TV hangs in the corner to my right above the drink station. Yesterday, 2 Aldra Junior High students were caught up in a villain attack. One young boy who was taken hostage by the slime villain, the other his classmate who recklessly ran to help. The screen shows footage from the attack, the street filled with smoke from small fires and a crowd of heroes surrounding the alleyway. Thankfully, before there were any casualties, All Might saved the day. His Detroit smash saved the young boys, while also changing the weather. Both boys are fine, and there were no other casualties. It cuts to footage of the clear sky turning to rain, the rain helping put the fire out, and clearing out the crowd. The 𝗳𝗏𝗄𝗏 shopping street will be reopened this weekend after all the damages from the event are repaired. The other heroes in the area were 𝗳𝗏𝗵𝗃𝗲, 𝗵𝗃𝗄𝗏, Backdraft, and 𝗵𝗏𝗍, who bravely kept the situation from leaving the area and rescued other civilians. Candid photos of all the named heroes appear on the screen, before it back to the newscaster. I turn and watch the news that happened yesterday. That's just the district over. We're lucky it wasn't our street that was caught in the hayfire. I squeeze the rag I'm using in worry from hearing that 2 kids around my age were caught by the villain, but I'm glad everyone is okay. One day, I'll be there to save others too. Now that I'm going to the UA entrance exam, I'll make sure to do my best. I daydream about what the villain was like, what could have happened if it was in my district. Besides that, my shift continues like normal and I leave around 10 again that Friday night. Haru learns of the news about my acceptance as well and gives me a high five on my way out. I have the weekend off before I have to go to school and work again on Monday. I'm a bit more paranoid on my way home. That slime attack was so recent and random. I need to pay attention if I want to be of any assistance in the future. Thankfully, I don't notice anything on my walk home, and head inside to go to bed without delay. April 5th, Saturday morning, is when I see both my dad and mom again. I hand them the envelope that said I was accepted into the General Studies course. My parents are both proud as well. I've been looking into the General Studies program. There are so many options for you, KCI. Make sure you don't get distracted by others and focus on studying. My mom asks, I pale, slightly worried she will focus too much in my studying. She continues, are you sure you don't want to go into business studies? You could work for me, and I can pass my bar down to you, sweetheart. You'd be set for the rest of your life. She says again. I sigh, shaking my head, but before I can respond, my dad speaks up. Leave her be, she's already said she doesn't want to work there. Let her decide for herself. He grunts, looking over my acceptance letter. I smile softly. Thanks, Dad. He's right, Mom, I want to help others. General Studies offers a great nurse program. I can be out helping others as much as I can. I say, it was as close to the truth as I would get. I've always wanted to be useful, but when I thought I was quirkless, I felt like I wouldn't be able to do anything I wanted. I wouldn't have tried to be a nurse even if I didn't get a quirk. I have nothing against nurses, but that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't really know what I wanted to do until I started getting the hang of my quirk. Now my plan is to work closely with hospitals. I think the most useful way to use my quirk would be cutting down travel time for victims. I don't like the thought of fighting villains, but if I can help the innocent by getting them out of harm's way, then that's what I wanted to do. Although, I can't tell my parents all this, so I made up a lie about going into nursing. My mom pushes my hair back with a sigh. Honey, I know you want to help, but I don't want you surrounded by others with amazing quirks. I'm telling you, staying away from that is the way to go, especially for you. Quirkless nurses have a low hire rate. Maybe going to UA will raise your chances, but you have to think realistically. I nod, not arguing, even though her words bother me. Sure, quirkless people can't do supernatural tricks, but having someone there to help is better than nobody. She's right on that, KCI. A lot of dangerous quirks filter through hospitals too. This week, we had to send a prisoner to the hospital. One of the inmates had made an attempt to escape when we were updating the nullifying HNDCFFS. We detained him, but not before he hit the prisoner in line behind him with about 1,000 quills. What makes matters worse is the guy he hit has a paralyzing venom that can affect others who touch his bodily fluids. Dad comments offhandedly. Oh my. So he was sent to the hospital. Did this happen on your shift? Mamas. He shakes his head. Nah, I was scheduled for 5 block that day. It happened in 4 block. I saw the dude on his way out. It looked terrible. The front of him covered in quills, he was a shade of red from the BLD. We had to sedate the guy because he wouldn't stop screaming. The DMN lot of them. They should all just do their time or die. We already have enough villains on the streets and they can't even behave indoors either. He scoffs, throwing my paper down onto the table. He picks up his Long Island that Mom made him. Well, that's good. I'd hate to have to tell others that it happened on your watch. I can't imagine what people would think at the bar if I told them that. Make sure to keep your inmates in check, Ensign. She responds, pulling out her phone and leaning against the couch. I sigh quietly. This was a usual thing here. I'd always hear morbid descriptions from Dad's work, and Mom would just focus on our image. Speaking of my dad, he's a corrections officer at the long-standing prison, Isengard Penitentiary. I've never looked into it, the stories he tells are enough for me to know, but it's where he's worked all my life. His name is Sora Ensign and his quirk is stop motion. He can manipulate objects or people, causing them to freeze in place as long as his hand is in a fist. I've seen him use it a few times at home, as well as felt it before. Fallen drinks, frozen midair with the liquid stuck in a limbo. It was always so cool to see him freeze a drink. He'd have me run and grab a bowl, and hold it under the beverage. Then he would grab the cup and let go of his quirk, the liquid being caught in my container. He uses his quirk to freeze prisoners as they fight, and other guards would pin them down with their quirks. It is quite handy in his line of work. In the present I sigh as I go to get up, grabbing the paper. Mom and Dad are lost in their conversation now. But as I leave, she grabs my arm. Kasii? Yeah. I ask, looking at her. My head tilts slightly as I wait. I'll be having guests over tomorrow afternoon. Go see if any of your friends want you over. I feel an ache in my chest, but smile through it. Vixie said I could come over. I was going to ask you. So I'll be out of the house tomorrow. I say. She nods, letting go of my arm. She turns back to my dad as they discuss tomorrow evening. Something about his coworkers being invited too. I head to my room with a sigh, placing the general studies acceptance letter on my small desk before looking at my calendar. Grabbing a marker, I write entrance exam on February 26, 2015, before letting the calendar close to today's date, April 5, 2014. Just over 10 months. I have a lot of work to do. I sigh to myself, feeling the nerves officially set in as I think about the work I need to do. April 6th, the next day, I leave the house like I said I would, but there's no Vixie. Well, actually there is, she's a student in my class. But we aren't friends, none of my classmates talk to me outside of school. Instead, I always spend my time running to the nearest park or elsewhere. It depends if there are other kids there or not, because sometimes I run into my schoolmates. After one not-so-nice encounter, I found an abandoned building near the beach. The fence isn't hard to climb, and the inside has hanging chains I can climb, or other things to scale. Metal framing makes good use for pull-ups, and the items in there are good practice for my quirk. The first time I found the place it was trashed, so I spent the days cleaning it with and without my quirk. Now I test my physical abilities and the limit of my quirk. I notice some kids I know at the park and take a sharp left. The building it is today. 𝗬𝗵𝗲. Spending all my free time for the next 10 months training, studying, and lying. I feel stronger, mentally and physically as I prepare for the entrance exam, but also more guilty. My daily routine isn't perfect, I have some slip-ups, parents needing me, becoming overworked, or almost demonstrating my quirk to others. But time kept moving and now before I knew it, 10 months had passed. There I was, I had made the trek to UA High and was now standing in front of the building. Others all around me, all here for the same thing, the UA entrance exams. I didn't know how much my life was about to start changing for the better. I wasn't planning to an author's notes so early, but I had a few things to say. 1. This is my first ever fanfic I've written for fun before but I've never posted it. 2. I'm currently in season 3 of 𝗵𝗃𝗃. I just finished the Two Heroes movie yesterday. That being said, I do my best to research the episodes while I'm writing. I'm not looking ahead, and I don't have many spoilers. I started 𝗵𝗃𝗃 when it came out in 2018, but due to home life, I wasn't able to keep up with it. Now I finally have time to actually watch it all. I was 15 when it came out, so in a way, I felt like I grew up with the characters. I mention this because I'm not planning for my character to overthrow the storyline or save everyone. As I watch the episodes, I think about what my character would do and I write it down. Which group she would choose, how she would respond, and I'm stuck with the choice after she makes it. Some things will be a bit out of pocket when I replace her role for 𝗵𝗃𝗃's spot, or when she acts on her own. Like seriously. It surprises me what she does sometimes and how it works out. 3. I'm going to delve into Class 1A students a lot. She will be getting to know all of them, there will be long interactions, and most importantly, I really want to focus on the kids' sides or growing up through this. The more I watch this show, I don't think I could survive in this superpowered world. These kids are going through so much. The days may take forever. There will be a lot of chapters. I've always had a problem summarizing days. How can I summarize and say, oh, they did a week's worth of training and not write the banter, the camaraderie, or the bonding experiences? That's my biggest issue with this show. It only shows relationships developing while they are on screen, but with how much these kids interact behind the scenes, their relationships seem really stunted. So I apologize if it gets boring or too long. This story is me escaping the real world and letting my inner child out, so I'm not trying to hold this story to any high standards. It's just easier for me to read it on a platform like this. Timeline stuff. The 𝗵𝗃𝗃 timeline is skewed and a bit hard to follow. I'm using the calendar year from 2015. so I'll do my best to stay on top of that. Writing this, I've learned how different the Japanese school year is. First semester, April, August summer vacation, July 20th to August 31st second semester September, December winter vacation, December 26th to January 6th third semester, January, March spring vacation, March 25th to April 5th. This was confusing to my American-raised brain. But now that I've figured out the difference, I hope to be able to write the story properly. This may also help the readers because I didn't understand why classes started when they did and such. I'm currently writing out Season 1, and I have my paragraphs outlined for what parts of Season 3 I've seen. I'll be posting once a week. So I hope you enjoy this story with me. I'm following the anime episode by episode. Some things will be taken directly from the show. I've placed those in bold. There will be some changes as it progresses. Enjoy. I sit there surrounded by other hopeful students in the large theater, pulling anxiously on the dark blue shirt I'm wearing. My outfit consists of the thin shirt and my school track. The binder I'm wearing is comfortable and secure, keeping my chest out of the way. I kick my feet, my worn newest tennis shoes swaying back and forth. The lights dim, a bright blue screen with the UAS logo illuminating behind 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 as he stands on the stage. A hush falls over the crowd as music plays and he begins to speak. What's up, UA candidates? Thanks for tuning in to me, your school DJ. Come on and let me hear ya. Excitement fills me as it begins. I throw my hand up in the air. Yeah. My outburst is loud as nobody else cheers. The music has paused as well, and I'm left there with my arm in the air. I look around embarrassed, pulling my arm back down as a kid snickers next to me. Some roll their eyes while the rest keep watching, not really bothered. 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 chuckles. Well, glad to hear from examinee 6669. The rest of you are keeping it mellow. That's fine, I'll skip straight to the main show. Let's talk about how this practical exam is gonna go down. Ooh. The music starts up again as 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 then belts out. Are you ready? Yeah. I keep quiet during the pause this time, waiting for him to continue. Like your application says, today you rockin' boys and girls will be out there conducting 10-minute mock battles in super hip urban settings. I snort at the word super hip as I'm reminded of gym. I watch as the screen changes, showing different areas ranging from A to G. Gird your loins, my friends. After I drop the mic here, you'll head to your specified battle center. Sound good? Okay. I look up from my papers, chuckling at 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃's theatrics. I let out aloud another small cheer in response, despite how my cheeks burn with embarrassment. He seems to smile wider if that was even possible. I read over my paper. Examinee 6669, I've been assigned to Area 𝗵𝗃𝗃. I say to myself. I hear others around me discussing what areas they got. I try to ignore them, focusing on the screen ahead. It's not like I have anyone here to talk with about it. 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 begins again after a few moments. Okay, let's check out your targets. There are 3 types of faux villains in every battle center. You'll earn points based on their level of difficulty, so better choose wisely. On the screen, a miniature video game version of 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 is shown walking through the mock city, coming upon and defeating faux villains. Gaining stars with each defeat. Your goal in this trial is to use your quirk to raise your score by shredding these faux villains like a mid-song guitar solo. But check it. Make sure you're keeping things heroic. Attacking other examinees is a UA no-no, ya dig? I laugh slightly again as I watch 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 wag his finger out to the crowd, but my attention is caught as another voice from the crowd speaks up. Excuse me, sir, but I have a question. Hit me. 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 exclaims, pointing into the crowd. A spotlight shines on the individual as he stands and continues. On the printout, you've listed 4 types of villains. Not 3. With all respect, the boy calls out. I wince, knowing whatever he is going to say will not be respectful. If this is an error on official UA materials, it is shameful. We are exemplary students. We expect the best from Japan's most notable school. A mistake such as this won't do. He states firmly. Called it. Additionally, you with the unkempt hair. He points into the crowd. I try to see who he's pointing at in the darkness. You've been muttering this entire time. Stop that, and 𝗧𝗵𝗃 who cheered earlier, listen up. I flinch, sitting up straighter, after being called out. If you can't bother to take this seriously, leave. You're distracting the rest of us. I blush and look down. The students around me begin to laugh. I am taking this seriously, but there's nothing wrong with cheering for 𝗵𝗃 or muttering. Maybe they were nervous. I sigh, ready to be out in the field. Whoever that guy was. It's admirable how seriously he's taking it, but I hope to not be in the same area as him. All right. Examinee number 7111. Thanks for calling in with your request. The pro hero says, regaining everyone's attention. My gaze rises to Mike, smiling again with his music pun. The fourth villain type is worth 0 points. That guy's just an obstacle we'll be throwing in your way. There's one in every battle center. Think of it as a hurdle you should try to avoid. I watch as 𝗵𝗃 runs from the fourth foe villain. It seems like that one will be an unnecessary hassle. I should avoid it. It's not that it can't be beaten, but there's kinda no point. I recommend my listeners try to ignore it and focus on the ones topping the charts. The guy, 7111, bows, thanks 𝗵𝗃, and sits down as the light turns off. Students around me start to talk about the fourth villain, while 𝗵𝗃 sends a closing message. That's all I got for you today. I'll sign off with a little present. A sample of our school motto. As General Napoleon Bonaparte once laid down, a true hero is one who overcomes life's misfortunes. Now that's a tasty soundbite. You ready to go beyond? Let's hear a plus ultra. I start to collect my things before laughing as 𝗵𝗃 says, good luck. Hope you practiced hitting more than just books. We all file out, heading towards the buses of our assigned groups. I wince as I notice the guy who spoke up is on my bus and try to sit away from him. There are enough seats for us to sit alone, and I scoot across the bench seat to stare out the window. Hopefully this means all my luck will be on the field. The bus stops outside a large cement wall at a gate. Filing off with the others, I crane my head back to take in the full height of it. We stand in front of the giant open gates, but then I hear a sudden smack. I glance over to where I heard the noise. A green-haired kid has his hands on his cheeks, freshly smacked, as he stands there looking nervous. I smile softly, deciding to head over to him as he walks towards the group. 7111 beats me to it, grabbing the kid's shoulder. She looks like she's trying to focus on the trials ahead. What are you going to do? Distract her and ruin her chances to succeed. I bite my lip, deciding to keep my pace as I head towards them despite wanting to avoid 7111. The green-haired kid starts to protest, waving his arms wildly. I hear other students start to gossip and I sigh quietly as I reach the two boys and step between them. I face 7111 with a polite smile. Hey, there's no need to be so harsh. I'm sure he wasn't going to ruin anyone's chances. I say, using my customer service voice. My hands are in the air between him and I as if I'm surrendering. 7111 glances down at me, his glasses glinting in the light. Oh, do you know each other? Try and keep to yourselves then. Don't bother the others, his muttering was already bad enough. He states with a frown. I realize that the green-haired kid was the person he mentioned in the theater. I internally wince but keep my smile outwardly. Will do, but please try and do the same. You did place your hand on him first after all. Now if you don't mind, we will see you after the exam. I respond courteously. I decided to point out his own actions, while also trying to end the encounter. He nods stiffly before turning away. I sigh in relief, happy the encounter didn't escalate, before turning to face the muttering kid. Holding my hand out towards him, Hi, I'm Sora Kasii. It's nice to meet you. The kid tenses up, looking shocked, and I wait patiently as he hesitantly accepts my hand. His palm is sweaty and shaking, but I grasp it undeterred. 𝗵𝗃 is 𝗧𝗵𝗃. Thanks for that. I nod, letting his hand go and smiling. No problem, between you and me, I'm 𝗳𝗵𝗃, the one who cheered. So we both annoyed him. I joke, trying to make him feel better. Before he can respond, 𝗵𝗃's voice calls out on the speakers. Right, let's start. Get moving. There are no countdowns in real battles. Run, 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 listeners. You're wasting airtime here. I look up shocked before watching everyone else start running, and I look over at 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃. Let's go. We rush after the group, keeping a decent pace. We started behind due to where everyone was standing, and I needed to catch up. A moment later, it seems that our slowness worked in our favor as a one-point robot smashes through a building in the gap between us and the larger group. I watch as it rushes towards us. It's huge. What the heck? I yell, taken aback by the sheer size of the thing. With the incoming attack, I don't notice as 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃 tenses up. I need to find a way to take it out and fast. Narrowing my eyes, I zero in on the metal connecting its limbs, the exposed lighter green parts, and I decide to try attacking there. The said limbs glow in my vision, an outline surrounding all three of them, and I picture the ground right in front of us. My quirk activates and the lighter green connecting pieces appear on the ground where I chose. The body and remaining limbs of the robot drop to the ground, no longer being connected together. I sigh in relief that my idea worked. If it didn't, I wasn't sure I'd be able to do anything in the entrance exam. Right after the robot falls, a laser shoots by, missing the now incapacitated robot. Got it? A voice calls, before squawking in shock as his laser hits nothing. Sorry. This one's mine. I call out to the blonde boy. Quah. He looks over to us. I see, and here I thought you two were just decoys. I'll watch out for you then. Adieu. He says as he takes off. I sigh, my energy fluctuating slightly from the use. Then I turn and look at 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃. Did they have to make them so big? Come on, we have to keep going. I call over to the frozen boy. 6 minutes and 2 seconds left. I run off ahead, taking a different path than 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃. I come across a guy with an interesting updo fighting a 2-pointer as a 3-pointer flies at him from behind. I teleport the limbs I can see off again, which is only the arms, but it continues its advance. The guy having defeated the 2-pointer spins around and uses his quirk on the 3-pointer. The machine is knocked back, flying at me. Oh! I yell as I dodge the flying machine, running into a pole as I avoid them. Thanks for the help, but those points are mine. Better stay back or you'll get hurt. He calls over his shoulder as he continues down the road. I grit my teeth as he runs off, my shoulder throbs from hitting the pole. Advancing further into the city, and I'm able to incapacitate 5 more on my way. 4 2-pointers and a 1-pointer, but the fatigue to my body is getting worse. I breathe heavily as I make my way out of an alleyway, stopping to catch my breath. I look upon the large open road, multiple students surrounded by broken robots spread out in the area. I hear others call out their total points and pale. I've only got 10 points. Am I not going to make it? Think. The ground starts to shake, a loud rumbling invades my ears and clouds of dust swarm my vision as it covers the street. A shadow casts overhead, and I crane my neck back to see what's blocking out the sun. What the actual? I mutter. The 0-pointer is towering over the street, an absolutely massive machine just standing there. I watch as its arm rears back and begins to swing down. I duck into the alleyway as a blast of wind and metal parts fly past. Some of the examinees cry out and start to run away from the giant. I go to run down the alleyway I'm in, but the building was destroyed by the robot. Large chunks had tumbled down, blocking the path, and forcing me back onto the street. See, I'm right next to this thing. I cry out, seeing the green machinery peeking out from behind the dilapidated building I was next to. I turn to run away with the others, far behind the crowd once again. As I'm running, I see someone lying there and recognize the mint green of 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃's jumpsuit. I change course, running towards him. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃. Come on, we have to move. I grab his arm, trying to pull him up. Less than 2 minutes remaining. We both freeze as the voice calls out. No. We have to go. I say, pulling 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃 with me. Oh. We both hear it, whipping my head back. I see brown hair. I wasn't able to previously see her due to the dust in the air, but now that it's settled I can see the outline of a girl lying on the ground. My eyes scan her, and I pause when I notice she's stuck. Before I can react, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃 runs ahead, arm leaving my grasp as he jumps up to the top of the machine. How can he jump that high? I shake my head and focus, running towards the girl. He's distracting the giant robot, so I shouldn't waste time and gawk at him. I need to use the opportunity he is providing and focus on helping her. I land on my knees next to her. "You're going to be all right?" I say as I look and teleport the cement off her leg. I feel my head spin, lightheaded from how much I've used my quirk. It's no good I don't have much energy left, but I have to keep going. There's a giant crash as 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃 makes impact with the robot, mini explosions bursting out of the metal machinery. I pull the girl's arm onto my shoulders, taking her weight as I pull us back and away from the exploding machine. I grit my teeth, trying to focus on moving away and not how tired I feel. My vision blurs slightly and we had only taken a few steps back before 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃's voice came in over the speakers. 1 minute remaining. There's a scream up above us, the girl and I looking up only to see 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃 tumbling downwards. No. Her and I call in sync. She pulls out of my grip, stepping forward and stumbling onto a broken machine part. I don't pay her much attention, my head clears slightly when I'm no longer supporting her body weight. I stare up at 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃 as he continues downwards, feeling a pit in my stomach grow as I realize he doesn't have a way to stop his fall. All I can do is wait until 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃 gets close enough for me to properly see. He drops closer and closer so I begin to see him more clearly. My eyes don't leave his body as I focus my sights on him. I watch his arms start to pull back, and now I teleport him, imagining the clear ground underneath him. I gasp, my vision going blurry again for a few more seconds. I blink rapidly, regaining my sight just long enough to see him on the ground safe. I sigh relieved before my eyes roll back and I faint. 𝗎𝗪𝗲𝗄𝗵𝗃. I fall onto the green metal, gritting my teeth as my ankle throbs. Even though I'm tired, I need to do something. I can't just sit here as the boy who helped save me falls from the sky. I use my quirk on the piece of machine I landed on and try to float as high as I can. Nausea makes my stomach flip, but I hold strong, forcing my gaze to watch as he continues to fall. He's 15 feet, 10 feet, 5 feet away from me. I pull my hand back and I smack forwards, but my hand doesn't hit anything. No. I scream. Did I miss him? Nausea strikes through me, and I'm forced to release my quirk. The machine and I drop, my stomach swooping with the fall. I keep my eyes closed after I land. If I look down, what will I see? My gut churns. It's from the use of my quirk and the possibility of seeing a boy splat down on the pavement. But sitting here won't help anyone, so I steel myself and look up. The world spins, on the ground I see his form, and then I vomit. Hacking up my lunch, I don't try to look back up. I heave, fighting to breathe for air as I empty my stomach. No. Is he dead? I whimper at the thought. After a moment of catching my breath, I force myself to look up again. No matter what I see, I have to know to my relief the boy is leaning on his left arm, facing me as he's sprawled out on the ground. I sigh out before relaxing against the machine. He's okay. I don't know how, but he's okay. I think to myself but then hear a smack on the ground. Glancing up I notice he's trying to crawl forward, but I have to look away again when I see his right arm looking mangled. I still have a chance to get at least 1 point before dash. He starts to yell. My heart aches as I listen to his cries. He saved me. He injured himself, risked his own life just to save me, and he didn't get any points. His cries are cut off as 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 speaks. About that, Timmy us up. He belts as a loud siren begging to blare. I feel another wave of nausea push through me at the noise. Trying to keep my eyes open, I stare sorrowfully as the boy cries before he faints. I bite my lip, feeling terrible for him as I frown. In the corner of my eye I notice the other kid who pulled me out of the rubble. I gasp seeing he's also passed out on the ground. What happened to him? I think, remembering that he seemed all right while pulling me away from the rubble. The other kids taking the exam come up and surround us. I decide to let myself relax and close my eyes. I can hear them talking as they stand there. It frustrates me to hear what they are saying about the boys who rescued me, but I can't muster up any strength to respond. I focus on my breathing and keeping my nausea down while waiting. Very nice, good work all around. You're heroes in my eyes, every one of you. Here, reward yourselves. Have some gummies. I squint up, seeing a short, elderly woman walking towards our group. She hands out some candy before coming closer. Oh my goodness. You were hurt this badly by your own quirk, Sunny. I hear a weird noise before she says, "Gimme some sugar." I groan, closing my eyes again as she repairs all the damage done to the boy's body with a kiss. She comes towards me, and one smooch later I feel my nausea and pain fade away. With a relieved sigh I sit up, the previous soreness in my limbs gone, but I feel way more tired. I watch as she moves to the other unconscious guy. Is he alright? I didn't see what happened to him. I ask the woman. She smooches the boy, pulling away with a hum. They'll be fine. There's no physical injuries, just exhaustion. I can't heal that. She responds. My worries ease, both the boys who saved me are going to be alright. With a tense smile I leave with the other students, robot stretchers coming to take the two that are unconscious. We file back onto the bus and are sent home with the promise of results later that week. I decide to make a stop to talk with Present Mike before I go home. There has to be something I can do. Kasei's 𝗵𝗃𝗲. I wake with a gasp, staring up at a white ceiling before groaning at the light and closing my eyes again. I lift one of my heavy arms and cover my face. Where? I say out loud, trying to recall what happened. My tongue feels heavy, and I grimace at the taste from my unscheduled sleep as I lay there and think. The exam, and then there was that large green machine. The girl and 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗧𝗵𝗲. I saved him, that's right. That must be why I feel so exhausted. I groan again as I remember something else. 10 points. I only got 10 points, there's no way I passed. I mutter aloud. Oh dearie. You're awake. How are you feeling? I lift my arm up off my eyes at the voice. They blink open and focus on the lady who seemingly appeared next to my bed. I adjust to the light and offer her a weak smile. Her short stature means she stands face level to me on the bed. While staring I notice the syringe in her hair, cute pink headband I think before answering. I'm feeling alright, just really tired. I hate overusing my quirk. I croak out, swallowing slightly as I feel how dry my throat is before I ask, 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗧𝗵𝗲, he was falling. Is he alright? She smiles at me, my quirk can't heal exhaustion, sorry dearie. But your friend is fine, in fact he's right behind me. She says, stepping to the side. I look over at the other bed and see his green, unruly hair peeking out from the covers. I sigh in relief before slowly sitting up. Good, that's good. Is the exam over now? I ask, a hand raising to press against my forehead and pushing the hair out of my face. She walks back over to her desk, sitting into the chair before raising it upwards. Yes. You finished the exam, everyone else went home. You're free to go when you want. She responds while grabbing something, make sure to take some candy on your way out, dearie, you did such a good job out there. You're both heroes. I smile. Thank you, I will. Actually, do you mind if I wait until he wakes up? I ask, looking over at the sleeping form. All I can see is his head as he lays there, curled up under the covers. I remember seeing his mangled red arm and feel the need to make sure he's alright. I hope I'll be allowed to stay and talk to him. Sure thing, dearie. That's very kind of you to wait. She responds. She hums while working on the computer. Giving her thanks I climb out of bed. Stretching slightly, my joints pop and I groan, but I'm not sore, just tired. Once I'm done I make the bed I was laying in, before sitting on it. I notice our bags on the table between our beds, my plain black one leaning against his yellow one. I grab mine and reach into it to pull out my water bottle that's full of extra strength matcha tea. I swallow the sweet green liquid. I always add maple syrup to mine since I don't care for the bitter taste. I sigh happily, the liquid filling me up, and I start to feel lighter. By the time I've finished sipping on my drink there's a groan in the bed I'm facing. I watch as he starts to come to. Good morning, 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗧𝗵𝗲. I say happily, even though it's not morning. His body freezes, his head slowly cranking to look at me. Sora. What? Where are we? I chuckle at his response, before Recovery Girl comes over. Oh goody. You're awake too. That's quite the damage your quirk did, Sunny. Take it easy, alright? She says, walking between us. She takes my hand, dropping some candy in it before doing the same to him. How are you feeling now? She asks him. He takes the candy, seemingly surprised when he realizes he's using his right hand. The last time he saw or felt it, it was badly broken. He shifts his legs, feeling no pain there as well. I actually feel pretty great. Did I imagine everything? Don't tell me I passed out before it even started. He cries out in a panic. My eyes widen and I try to calm him down. No. We completed the exam. Remember, you saved the girl by smashing in that giant robot. I explained to him, you jumped so high. It was insane. I recall. His eyes widen, hand with the candy dropping into his lap as he stares down at it. So I was right then. I failed. Not a single point. He says dejectedly. My heart drops as he says that. In a breath I climb off my bed. Recovery girl standing to my right as I step forwards until I'm next to him. My left hand tentatively comes up, and I place it on his shoulder softly. He jumps, slowly turning his head to look at me. There are tears in his green eyes and a defeated look on his face. I didn't know you weren't able to get any points. But 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃, if it weren't for you that girl could have been hurt worse. So I think you did amazing, you acted like a true hero. Wasn't that the whole point of the exam? I respond softly, squeezing his shoulder. My words have the opposite effect that I wanted. Tears pouring down his cheeks as he cries. Wait, I'm sorry. I start to say, my hand leaving his shoulder as my arms rise to hover between us. You really mean it? Like a hero? He asks through his tears. His expression shifts to something hopeful, tears still streaming out of his eyes. I pause at his words, before lowering my hand back onto his shoulder with a soft smile. Yeah, I really mean it. I'm sure that what you did has to count for something in the exam. I say back, trying to boost his confidence. Recovery girl smiles at us, watching this play out. Alright, you two. You both did well in the exam, so don't worry. Now, you're the last ones left, so you should get a move on. Your parents are probably waiting. She smiles, gesturing towards the door. The clock above reads 5:37 p.m. I nod, letting go of 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃's shoulder as he rushes to move. He climbs out of bed hesitantly, as if testing his previously broken legs. I grab my bag, picking up his as well and carrying it to him as he walks around his bed. We leave the infirmary, waving goodbye to Recovery Girl. She tells us to take a left to find the main entrance. Closing the door behind us, I turn to 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃. Feeling better? You scared the heck out of me when you were falling back down. Did you jump up there without a way to catch yourself? I'm curious. We begin to make our way down the hall, and I try my best to make small talk. Thankfully, I soon learn 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃 is quite good at making conversation. His hands pull at the straps of his yellow bag, seemingly shy and embarrassed. I just acted. I didn't really have time to think before my body was moving. Then right before I could punch the ground to catch myself, I was on it. He starts to ramble. I was trying to time it perfectly, waiting until I was close enough to punch the ground, but then I was there. It was disorienting. I didn't have time to focus on that though. It was a good outcome, since I wouldn't have been able to get any more points if I had used my arm. Not that I was able to anyways since we ran out of time. I saw that girl drop from the sky after I hit the ground. Maybe she was trying to save me, but if she didn't, who did? Someone with a slow descent quirk. No, I was still moving too fast and then skipped down onto the ground. I watch wide-eyed as he continues to talk, his mumbling barely loud enough to hear. I listen to him until I hear something I can answer. Oh, my quirk is teleportation. Once you were close enough I moved you to the ground, but ended up using the rest of my energy. That's why I was in the infirmary with you. I explain to him, my hand rising to rub the back of my neck as I answer. He stops mumbling and looks over at me surprised. Oh, that makes sense. That's how you defeated that first robot we came across? Well, then I owe you one. Thank you, Sora. He bows, thank you very. I step back from him in surprise. My hands move in front of me as I shake them. Wait, there's no need to bow. I wouldn't have been able to save her like you did. You stopped the giant robot, so thank you, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃. And you don't owe me anything. I respond quickly. He looks up, before coming to a standing position again. Are you sure? He asks tentatively. I nod extra hard and assuringly. We continue to make our way down the hall, having paused there as we both fumble over our words. The hallway leads to a spacious room, lockers in the center for outdoor shoes. We continue past them towards the door. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 sighs, even so. I don't know what would have happened if you weren't there. Maybe the other girl would have saved me, maybe I would have broken my own fall. He guesses before looking me in the eyes. What I do know is that you saved me, so really I mean it. Thank you. He says earnestly. No problem then. I look away. His eyes are a really nice shade of green. I cough at the thought. You had some quick reactions though. I hope we can see that girl again too. We make it to the doors at the front of the building. Walking through number 1, I raise my hand as the late sun blinds me. It's pretty late, we should head home. Which way do you live? I ask, turning towards him. Welcome to my made-up distances and areas. I don't know the distances or names of other districts, so I'll make them up as we go. He points to the west, 𝗵𝘃𝗲, true, I live near there. My eyes widen in recognition, I live near there too. Over in 𝗵𝗃𝗲, made up. We can travel together then. If that's okay with you. I ask softly. His eyes recognize my district as well and he seems surprised. So sure. I don't mind at all. Are you sure that's okay? Yes. His hands move around awkwardly for a second. I nod, smiling. We begin to head that way. It's about an hour-long walk to 𝗵𝘃𝗲 from the UA school. His house is closer than mine. I don't mind the walk and he agrees when I suggest it, saying he would like the time to move his limbs and reflect on the exam. So we walk together, slowly getting to know each other more. So, what did you think of the exam? I start off. It was, to be honest, more than what I expected. I thought I was ready. He sighs, curling into himself looking disappointed. You're right on that. Did they have to make the robots so big? The last one was definitely overkill. I still don't know how you managed to get up so high. I say, my tone rising and falling in theatrics, trying to lighten his mood. He looks over at me with a wobbly smile. They were unnecessarily big. I wasn't even able to destroy any in the end. I shake my head and hold up a finger. You totally took out the last one. I bet it's secretly the one with the most points since it was so large. I say while smiling at him. His eyes widen. I didn't think of that. It could be a trick, but I shouldn't get my hopes up. Why would they tell us to avoid it or even try and trick us in the first place? He begins to mumble. I pat his shoulder softly. Hey, don't worry so much. There's no point in panicking over something we can't decide. Just be proud of what you did accomplish, which was destroying that giant. I call out exaggeratedly, before clearing my throat, and saving that girl. I think you can walk away from this exam with your head held high. I pump my fist up excitedly, emphasizing my words. He stares at me in awe. You're right, even if I didn't get any points. I used my quirk and helped her. I need to focus on what I gained. He says determined, looking over at me while raising his own fist. I chuckle. I usually am, I joke. Then rubbing the back of my neck I take a moment to decide if I should ask this or not. Hey 𝗵𝘃𝗲, I know we just met, but do you want to be friends? I look away, missing his shocked expression. I don't know what it is, but talking to him feels so easy, and I'm really enjoying myself. I know it's sudden, but I can't help it. The warmth in my chest makes me feel light in a way I've never felt before. I wait nervously, fearing that he will say no. Really? Are you sure? I'd love to. His voice cracks as he responds. He turns towards me stiffly with a shocked, excited look. I smile in response, reaching for my phone in my bag to calm my reaction. Of course I'm sure. Since you said you owe me one, how about we trade numbers? I pull out my phone as I say this. I thought you said I didn't owe you anything, he says, sounding sad. I look over at him worried, before seeing the grin on his face as he pulls out his own phone. I laugh, the tension in my chest dissolving. Shut up. Now I think you do. There's no backing out now. I quip. He laughs as well and we trade contact information. Continuing our walk home, I decide to speak up again after a few moments of silence. Hey, I've been wondering something. I trail off. It could be a personal subject, but I've been curious since I saw it. What is it? His head turns towards me. I look him over before looking forwards. It's your quirk. Does it always hurt your body like that? I ask hesitantly. He seems to stiffen slightly, a nervous look on his face. Well, yes, yeah. It does. He stumbles over his words, his hands moving in front of him, before settling on the back of his neck as he looks away. I look at him confused. Are you asking me? Did you not know? He lets out a big sigh, one hand gesturing between us. Well, you see. I didn't know my quirk would hurt my body. But I think it is natural. He tries to explain. I listen, humming as I try to make sense of it. A hand raises to rest on my chin as I say, it sounds like you're not used to using your quirk. Could it be that yours developed late too? I ask, wondering out loud. He sees the chance to use my excuse, thankful that I came up with something for him. Yes. That's it. I got my quirk late. He's strained. It's his turn to watch me as he hopes I believe him. I nod with a smile. Oh, I see. Well, don't worry. My quirk was late too, though I've been able to use it for a while now. Mine developed at 8. When did yours? I ask him with curious eyes. You were a late bloomer. I've never heard of that before. At the end of last year, he stretches out. My eyes widen in surprise. That's like no time to get used to it. How did yours develop? I ask curious. I hear my own question and start backtracking. Well, you don't have to tell me that if you don't want to. I was just curious. I respond a bit more calmly. I know my development story isn't nice. So I worry his isn't either. Midoriya regards me with a small smile on his face. I don't mind. I don't know if you heard about it, but back when a sludge monster attacked a student last year. That was my classmate. My quirk kind of activated at that moment. His fists clench, remembering All Might's words that day. He continues, I had almost given up hope, but then I tried to save my classmate. In the end I wasn't able to do much and All Might saved the both of us. He recounts the tale, mixing a lot of the truth in the story. His quirk didn't activate that day, but All Might decided to make him his predecessor that day. That started the training for his quirk, which makes the story not a full lie. Hearing that shocks me. That must have been terrifying. I say, clutching my bag strap. So you went in there thinking you were quirkless to save your. Can't focus only on the robot points. A school that prestigious, that impactful. No, there has to be more to the exam than we know. It's like Sora said, we shouldn't worry about what we can't decide. I have to trust that I somehow did well enough to pass. My eyes refocus on my phone as the screen shuts off. With a sigh, I turn the phone back on and text Sora, before putting it away with a smile. I slide under the covers, drifting off while trying not to worry about what lies ahead. Rest up. Good night, Sora. 10:20 p.m. Yeah, I'd love to talk tomorrow. Smiley face, 10:20 p.m. KCI's POV February 27th. I wake up the next morning, letting out a yawn and rolling over in bed. I'm tempted to fall back asleep, but then there's a knock at my door. I realize it's probably what woke me in the first place. Tap tap tap. I sit up, groaning. Dead. I say, rubbing my eyes. I hear him chuckle, standing in my doorway. Morning sunshine, your mom sent me to wake you up. When you're dressed, come downstairs. He calls. I blink over towards his figure leaning against my door frame. I let out another large yawn before responding. Love you. I say as I shimmy out from under the covers. I climb out of bed as he pushes off the doorframe. I love you too, he says before I hear his footsteps trail down the hall. I walk to my closet while scratching my stomach. If mom sent dad, that must mean she's cooking breakfast this morning. After choosing some random clothes, I grab my phone to check the time. 5:35 a.m. This is cruel and unusual punishment. It should be illegal to wake up this early on a weekend. I grumble to myself. I throw on the clothes, consisting of a baggy pair of green shorts and a black shirt. I put a gray binder on as well. Since I'm up this early, I might as well train after we eat. I head down the stairs, yawning during the descent and almost tripping. I grab the rail, catching myself, and peek into the kitchen. Mom is humming while facing the stove. Dad's sitting at the counter with a cup of coffee looking at his phone. I stumble into the kitchen, leaning sleepily against my dad, his arm setting down his coffee to wrap around me. "Good morning," I say sleepily into his chest. He chuckles, ruffling my hair. "Morning, sweetheart. Sleep well?" he asks, pulling back to look at my face. I whine, closing my eyes and snuggling into him. "Don't whine. It's unbecoming of a lady." My mom calls from the stove. I sigh in response. She turns around towards us, holding a plate of some fresh fruit. "It's bad enough you keep cutting your hair, now get off your father and go clean up. This is an important morning after all." I nod, Dad patting my back before letting go. I drag my feet to the bathroom. A big morning. Is it because of my entrance exam? I think as I brush my teeth. Splashing some cold water on my face, I dry off and apply moisturizer. Then head back to the kitchen with a pep in my step as I return. I walk up to Mom. "Where do you want me?" She smiles, stepping back so I can stir the 𝗧𝗪𝗀𝗧𝗏. My nose scrunches up at the mini sardines, but I take over without complaint. I pour the cooked animal into a bowl, taking it out to the island table/counter. There's fruits, steaming rice, a container of eggs, some soybeans, and now the 𝗧𝗪𝗀𝗧𝗏. I set the bowl down, turning to Mom who is making tea. "What's with all the food?" I ask, watching her. "Grab out the cups. I'll explain while we eat." She instructs. I walk over, grabbing the mugs for our tea, setting them at our spots at the island. Then I grab the pot holder, propping it in the middle of the table. Mom walks over, setting the teapot down and sitting in her chair. She sits next to Dad and I'm next to her. I grab a bowl of rice, cracking an egg and pouring it in. Placing the cracked shell back in the container, I scoop up some soybeans as well, stirring it all together. Dad already made his bowl, and Mom starts to talk as she makes hers. "Yesterday, something great happened." She starts, I perk up watching her. Dad hums, setting his phone down. When she has our attention, she continues. "I had a buyer come to the bar. He wanted to buy my business. But you know I'd never sell that." She says, facing my dad. He nods, taking a bite of food. I can't help but feel a little disappointed. I had a big day yesterday, but it sounds like she did too. But while he was there, he ordered one of my personally made drinks. And now, he wants to help me start my own liquor line. Can you imagine that? My name out on the shelves, people will think of me every time they buy it. She boasts. My eyes widen, swallowing my food quickly. "Really, Mom? That's great," I say as my dad responds. "That's nice, honey." She nods, placing a hand on her cheek, seemingly overcome with the idea. I've never thought of selling my own brand before. I mean, I sell it at the bar, but to try and go worldwide, I'll have to come up with new flavors, a name, a bottle design. She rambles excitedly. My dad nods along, eating his food. I continue to smile at my mom, happy for her. "What have you thought of so far?" I ask. The rest of breakfast is spent with her rattling off ideas, designs, and names. Dad doesn't input much, but I try to give my opinion. I don't know much about what sells, especially in the bars, but I hope my thoughts are helpful. I begin cleaning up breakfast as Mom continues to talk. She's pulled out her computer to type things down. Dad had left to watch the morning news in the living room. "Oh, Casey, before I forget." Mom calls while staring at her computer. I look at her over my shoulder. "Yeah. I need you out of the house this afternoon. I have some people coming to talk business. I don't want them to get distracted by you." She instructs. I sigh, turning back to the dishes. I wash them for a moment without responding. "That better be a yes." She calls. Jumping, I nod in agreement. "Why? Sorry, I was thinking about what to do." She hums in acknowledgement. "As long as you're away from the house, anything is fine. Just don't embarrass yourself. Remember, your image affects my image," she says offhandedly. Finishing up the dishes, I chuckle. "I know." I trail off before turning towards her. "Hey, Mom. Just don't dawdle, time is money." I have a lot of work to do now, so hurry up, dear. She quips. I step closer, leaning against the counter as I look at her. Sorry. Do you want to hear about how the entrance exam went yesterday? I ask her. I can't tell her the full story, but the written part and the people I met would be fine. Don't slouch. She reprimands. Besides, there's no need for that right now. She says. I stand up straight, and I can feel my stomach drop slightly. She doesn't look away from her computer as she continues. You don't know if you passed yet or not. Don't get your hopes up until you know. If you fail, it's better to not brag about what happened. I bite my lip, looking down. I knew her answer would be something like this. I don't know why I thought it would be different, but she's right. There's no point in mentioning it if I failed, it would just be wasted time. I guess, since I got to use my quirk around others, I got ahead of myself. Right? You're right. I respond, turning to leave. I'm going to go get ready and leave then. I'll be back later. What time is good? I ask, changing the subject. The smile on my face feels tight. Even though she said this afternoon, I feel like running out of the house this minute. I always am KCI. She chimes, then looks at her phone. Right now? Maybe. Villain was holding a train of people hostage. It's because the trains were going electric and they were cutting staff. As soon as All Might showed up, the villain began to back off. All Might wasn't supposed to be in that district at the time. So everyone was surprised, even the bad guy. The civilians being held hostage looked relieved once All Might was on scene, even though they were still trapped in the trains. All Might just looked at the guy yelling, I am here, and the dude buckled. He tried to drive the train with the passengers, but All Might jumped in front of it and stopped it with his body. So the villain tried running on foot, creating steam to hide as he ran. Then All Might threw a Detroit smash and all the steam blew away, revealing the guy who was sent flying with the punch. Like All Might didn't even hit the guy. Just the air between them. Then he turned to unload all the civilians as other heroes detain the guy. Actually, I've been writing notes dashed. He turns to rummage through his bag, before freezing. He turns and looks up at me worried. His spiel did surprise me, but he seemed so excited. His voice was passionate and nice to listen to. I sat quietly and listened, trying my best to keep up. I hadn't heard about this villain, since I don't pay attention to the news, so it really was interesting to hear. When Midoriya went for his bag but then froze, I stared at him confused. We made eye contact and his hand flew to cover his mouth. That sounds really cool. You were going to say you've been writing notes? I asked, repeating the last thing he said. He continued to stare at me for a moment. His eyebrows pulled together. Sorry. I tend to ramble. I didn't mean to be annoying. He apologizes sincerely. I frown, leaning forward. Why are you sorry? I was enjoying what you were saying. I don't know a lot about heroes, so it's really cool you know so much. I compliment. He looks away, the hand moving from his face to his neck. Well. I want to become a hero, so of course I know a lot. But I know my tangents are annoying, so I'll try to hold back. He stares down as he says this. There's a slight flush on his face as he rubs his neck nervously. No way. I was learning so much. And the way you explained it made it so fun to listen to. So please continue. Is All Might the only hero you know about? I smile widely, gesturing my hands between us in encouragement. He looks up unsure, before shaking his head. No. I study every hero and quirk I can. He digs through his bag again, pulling out a notebook. I notice the notebook looks water-damaged and burnt. I look at it curiously as he looks over at me again. This is one of the books I have. It contains notes of heroes, and some classmates that I write about. I try to analyze how they act and use their quirks. I thought, if I learned from watching them, I could become a hero too. He says, there's a hint of desperation in his voice. Nobody has ever told me that. I hear his voice from our conversation yesterday, the way he said it yesterday, and the way he looks right now. My heart clenches and I place my hand on his shoulder, his attention turning to me. To me. It sounds like heroes should be taking notes on you, Midoriya. I say honestly, squeezing his shoulder. I notice his expression gets teary, so I say something else to stop the tears from spilling. Can I see the notes you've taken? He sniffles, wiping his eyes with his sleeve before smiling. Yeah. He softly replies, shifting the book between us and opening it. He goes over explaining the notes in there. Some pages have heroes, others have civilians and their quirks, and others look like personal notes to himself. I watch as he explains, reading along. We get to a page with a boy and Midoriya falters. "Who's he?" I ask, gauging his reaction. I read the name Bakugo Katsuki at the top of the page. He smiles, fingers tracing the drawing. "This is Kaken. He's one of my classmates in school. He has an amazing quirk. It's so powerful and flashy. He's also super determined and ambitious. I wish I could be more like him." I listen as he explains before nudging his side. "Aren't you already?" I ask him. He looks up confused with a "T." "From what I've learned about you so far is that you're driven and focused. Your quirk developed earlier this year, and you've been building your strength ever since. Not only that, but you rushed in to save a classmate without even knowing of your quirk. You risked yourself to save that girl at the exam, and these notes show your dedication. I actually think you're super amazing, Midoriya." I finish with a smile, my arms spread out wide in emphasis. Midoriya had been slowly getting redder and redder as I continued. "𝗬𝗚𝗎𝗢𝗢𝗎. I still have a lot of work to do. I need to keep pushing and get stronger. Teats, then maybe I can say the same." His voice grows serious at the end. I huff, "Fine, but I want to watch you every step of the way. Maybe we can get stronger together." My voice is soft. He looks at me with sparkling eyes and a smile. "Yeah, I'd like that." He responds softly. I stand up, stretching with a groan. Before turning back to him and holding my hand out. "Come on, we should go find something to do. Any ideas? You said you woke up late, what do you normally do?" I wait patiently as he slowly puts his hand in mine, before pulling him off the bench. We grab our things as he answers. "I usually start with a morning run before working out, but we don't have to do that if you want to do something else," he says while pulling his bag back on. I grin at him, placing my hands on my hips. "But afraid I'll fall behind. We can do your morning training if you'd like. Only if we do mine next time." I bargain with a grin. He looks at me, a smile spreading on his face. "Next time?" He looks shocked before continuing, "That's fine with me. We can take my usual route then." He begins to stretch and I follow suit. Soon he starts to jog and I follow. I'm a little behind him so he can lead, but still beside him. We jog down streets and I watch myself fall behind a bit more, probably because I already jogged this morning. I decide to jog directly behind him and shadow him as we continue his route. 30 minutes later, we stop in front of a junkyard. I bend over to catch my breath, heaving from the over 2-mile jog. He catches his as well before walking up to the junkyard. I'm gonna say all might set up shop here, since they moved all the stuff from the beach. It provides an area for Midoriya to work out now that the beach is clean. Asterisk, this math was done with Midoriya's results from the 50-meter dash. A 7.02 time sets his pace at almost 4 miles per hour. I comfortably jog at 3.5, so I'd be slightly slower than him. So our 2.5 miles would take about 30 minutes asterisk. Why are you going in there? I ask, arms behind my head as I breathe. I follow him as he pulls a key out of his bag. I've got a deal with the owner. There's a corner I set up with old equipment that was thrown out. I can come here and train when I want, he says, regaining his breath. It's partially true, since All Might is the one who made the deal, giving Midoriya a place to train on his own. That's really sweet. I wipe the sweat off my brow. I follow him in and he locks the door behind us. He turns and leads me further in. There are organized walls of trash as we walk through. I get slightly overwhelmed trying to take it all in. There are clusters of trash sky high everywhere. Remember having one friend, her name was Shintani Jean. But due to bullying she had to stop being my friend. I sigh as I remember her. She's the reason I started leaving my classmates alone. I didn't want to cause anyone else trouble. Midoriya looks up at my sigh. Yeah. I think we all thought the Beatles were bigger than they actually were. What about you? What do you usually like to do with your friends? He asks back at me. I rub my arm, realizing I'm going to have to tell him. I look off to the side, not wanting to seem pathetic with what I'm about to say. Truthfully, I don't have any friends, so I'm not sure what to do now. I turn to him. Realizing what I said, I put my hands up. Wait. I meant I didn't have any friends. I consider you my friend. So don't take it the wrong way. I fret. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 looks at me with something strange in his eyes. I pause, staring at him. His mouth parts, but then shuts again. He takes a moment, his hand coming up to rub the back of his neck. I don't either. Besides you, I mean. Nobody. They thought I was quirkless. He explains. My heart clenches, realizing he's in the same boat as me. Do they know that you aren't now? I ask softly. He shakes his head. But I didn't see the point. We are all going separate ways. It's not like I can show them my quirk either. So they'll likely not believe me. Frowning, I step forwards. Without thinking, I grab 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲's free hand in my own. I couldn't show them either. So they all still think I'm quirkless. I explain, looking up at him. We can just be quirkless together then. And figure out what to do from there. I ask teasingly. My voice is soft, not providing the teasing tone I meant. His hand tightens around mine. Yeah. He smiles warmly with a nod. I smile, pulling back slightly. I look down at our hands. The feeling of his hand makes me feel warm inside. I don't know what it is, but I really like it and I don't want to let go. Is this okay? I ask, squeezing his hand. I'm worried he will pull away, but my worry fades when he squeezes back again. It's great, I mean. It's fine. He stammers, looking down at our linked hands. I snort, laughing at him. Fine. I repeat and he sighs embarrassed. I chuckle, deciding to change the topic and free him of his embarrassment. So, what are our options? We have from now until lunch to do something. I trail off. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 hums as he starts to mutter. Well, I know of some popular spots. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 and his friends like to frequent the arcade. There's an aquarium not too far from here. We could walk around and read about the sea life. We could also go back to the beach, but neither of us brought beach stuff, and it's probably too cold. There's the museum. It's got a heroes section that I really like, but Sora doesn't know much about them, so it might not be fun. Shopping is something friends do together. I don't need anything, but it would be cool to see if there's any new All Might merch. He goes on, starting to talk to himself. I listen, all the ideas sounding fun to me. When he mentions shopping, I remember that I needed a new pair of shoes, so I interject. Shopping sounds cool to me. Maybe I can find a pair of shoes in my size. Are there thrift stores nearby? I ask. I usually go to thrift stores because they're closer to my house and cheaper. Thrift stores. There may be one nearby, but I was thinking more about the mall. We can do both. Yes. I nod, not having a problem with it. Lead the way then. We grab our stuff and head towards the exit. I decide to grab onto his hand instead of his shirt. He doesn't seem to mind, and I close my eyes as he leads the way out. I feel as he stops, reopening my eyes as we face the exit, and I sadly let go of his hand. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 unlocks the door and we leave, locking it behind us. He leads me to the nearest shopping district. We end up walking around for a bit before he pulls us into a small corner store. He buys some more notebooks and pens. I find one that has a variety of cats on the cover and an All Might themed pen. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 looks over at my purchases. Oh, I never asked. Who's your favorite hero? He asks as we leave the store. I hum, trying to think it over. I don't really know. His eyes widen. I guess if I had to choose. What's his name? The one who can shoot water from his hands. He's got red hydrants on his hands and wears a red cap with a white mask. I try to describe. I really can't remember the hero's name. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲's look of surprise changes to something thoughtful as he tries to name the hero I'm describing. Shoots water with hydrants, red hat, and a white mask. He mumbles to himself before asking, backdraft? My eyes light up with recognition and I nod. Yeah. I've heard about him a couple times on the news. He saved one of my classmates' families from a burning building. So that's mainly how I know him. I know it's probably terrible, but I don't spend a lot of time learning about the heroes. I say with a bashful smile, But from the way you talked about All Might earlier, he sounds super cool too. He smiles at my last comment, but he's still a bit shocked I don't keep up with heroes. Wouldn't you want to know more about heroes if you're aiming to become one? He asks. I pause. You have a point. I just don't have much time to really. And there are so many I wouldn't know where to start. I hear about heroes from others, but I haven't seen any in action. So it's kind of like villains. I know they exist, just not how many or who they are. I finish with a shrug. Did you just compare heroes to villains? 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 asks incredulously. I snort, rubbing the back of my neck. I guess I did. He seems to drift off in thought. It's silent for the rest of the short walk. We continue to window shop and I make a stop at a shoe store. I'm surprised by the variety of shoes in my size, settling on some black tennis shoes. On the way to checkout I spot a pair of long white socks with cats decorating the tops. Grabbing those too, I buy my new items. Well, I was wanting to go to the thrift store for shoes, but now I have these. So I don't mind if we stay here the rest of the time. I say. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 nods and swerves us towards a comic shop. I mainly follow him around as he points out different action figures, explaining the quirks of the heroes that are there. I nod, trying to take it all in. After a few heroes, I realize he's teaching me about them, which makes me shake my head with a smile. He ends up buying a sticker pack that he says is new, full of All Might themed stickers. I notice it's getting closer to one when we leave that store. You have to get to lunch with your mom, right? I ask him as we walk out. He puts the stickers into his yellow bag before looking at me. Yeah, what time is it? He asks, pulling out his phone. His eyes bulge, seeing it's 15 minutes till 1. How long were we in there for? I chuckle, teasing him. I don't know, I think 15 minutes had passed by the time you started telling me about the third figurine, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲. I remark. He blushes, fumbling over his words before clearing his throat. You didn't seem bothered by it, he says softly. I smile with a nod, then he remembers the time. Oh yeah, we've got to go if we're going to make it on time. I should probably let Mom know I'll be late. And that I'm bringing someone with me. He trails off talking to himself as he texts her. We? I ask, dumbfounded. He looks up at me equally confused. Yeah. More than what I expected, and while I didn't do as well as I had hoped. I'm happy with how it went. I say, smiling softly. She hums before prodding some more. Izuku was telling me about it all. It seemed like a bit too much for kids your age. Did you run across any issues? She asks, wanting to know more. I give her a confused look, then glance at 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲. He's looking at me while eating too, seemingly just as interested. It was all larger than I expected. I ask her. I take another bite of food, chewing as she tilts her head. Okay. But what else? How many machines were you able to take out? Did you see anyone else there that you talked with? What was your favorite part? She rattled off some questions. I finish chewing and swallow while setting down my chopsticks. You want to know what I thought about it? For real? I wonder out loud. She seems taken aback by my questions. Yeah. I'd like to know what you thought about it. Is that weird? I digest the question before repeating what my mom said that morning. Isn't there no point in talking about the exam until we get the results? It's a waste of time to brag about how I think I did if I just end up failing. I state softly. The cold feeling of how that felt this morning fills me as I say this. His mom frowns at that. Before she can respond, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 does. What? Sora, do you really think that? Of course it still matters. Just because you might fail doesn't mean you didn't experience something. My head turns to 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲, surprised, his mom speaking up next. It's not bragging to talk about how you did, dear. You're just explaining your perspective of it. I was curious about what you thought about it, but we can talk about something else if you'd like. She says softly. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 stares at me with a confused look. I had no problem talking about it on the walk. So why is it different now? I look down at the food his mother provided me. I feel stupid for having to be told that, and no. It's fine. I really don't mind answering. I was just confused. You're right, I did still experience it. Even if I fail or not. I say softly out loud. For some reason, admitting that hurts. Like there's an ache in my chest. I try not to think about it as I smile up at Midoriya's mom instead. What did you want to know again? I ask. She smiles back, repeating her questions. Whatever coldness I felt seems to fade away with each of her questions. A fuzzy feeling grows in me as I get excited to share my thoughts. I was able to disable 6 machines altogether. There was one I helped with, but I wasn't able to fully take it down. I didn't really talk to anyone other than Midoriya. It was really fast-paced, and I didn't have time. I think my favorite part was meeting Recovery Girl. She gave us candy at the end of it. I say with an excited grin. His mom nods. I see. Izuku actually gave me some of the candy from Recovery Girl. It was definitely sweet. What was the hardest part for you, Sora? Izuku said he had a hard time keeping up with the group. She says, smiling softly at Midoriya. Yeah, it was super good candy. I think the hardest part was keeping up with everyone else too. With the amount of students in our group, we were all fighting over the closest robots. The last one, though, worth 0 points, was totally uncalled for. It was huge. I turn to Midoriya. I still cannot believe you jumped that high to punch it. I exclaim. His mom listens as I respond, nodding along until I say that. You didn't mention that, Izuku? She says. I watch as his face changes and he looks nervous. I realize I said something I probably shouldn't have. Right? Nobody would tell their parents about how hurt they got. He was probably too embarrassed. I say quickly. They both look at me, his mom confused and Midoriya with a panicked look. I smile at him before continuing. He defeated the 0-pointer to save a girl who was stuck on the street. From what I know about Midoriya by now is that he doesn't like to admit his heroic acts. I say, patting his shoulder. I smile wide at his mom, trying to come off as carefree as I can. You're right about that, she says laughing before leaning forward more. Tell me what happened. Since he didn't, she gives him a pointed look. It's not that big of a deal. Midoriya starts before I cut him off. It is too. Imagine, you're in a city littered with broken machines and teens are everywhere racing each other for more of them. It's chaotic already, but then all of a sudden the ground shakes. I say, my voice dropping to add dramatic effect. There's clouds of smoke and rumbling as a giant green robot emerges. It's taller than a 5-story building and almost as wide as the street itself. My arms widen for effect, his mom's eyes widening. Everyone begins to run, I do as well, but my exit gets blocked, forcing me back onto the street. As I run I see Midoriya, so I rush over to him, but suddenly there's a cry for help. I look at Midoriya and he stares back. I nudge him expectantly. What? He asks confused. I smile, make the sound. His look of confusion to realization. He thinks I'm joking, but as I continue to stare at him he realizes I'm serious. Midoriya looks as if he's going to say no, but then he sighs while blushing brightly. His mom grins watching us, laughing as Midoriya calls out, "Ow," in a high-pitched voice. I grin, shooting him a thumbs up as he hides his face. I turn back to his mom. We both stop, turning and seeing the girl that the noise came from. She was previously hidden by the dust. To our horror, her leg is stuck in some rubble. Before I can even react, Midoriya is sprinting forwards. Whoosh. I make a noise, sliding my hand out in front of me. He literally leaps into action, soaring up, up, up and up, until he's at the face of the robot. Beginning his descent, he slams a fist into the giant's face, giving me time to remove the girl from the rubble. The hero begins his descent back down, preparing to make his landing. But instead of catching himself, Midoriya tenses slightly. I swoop in and steal the thunder, teleporting him safely back to the ground. I finish smugly, crossing my arms and leaning back. I can tell Midoriya is relieved that I left out his injuries. He glances from me to his mom, who to our surprise starts to burst into tears. I jump back up in my seat, worried as hell. I look towards Midoriya concerned, and he smiles softly at me. My baby has grown up. You did so well. I can't believe you didn't tell me about that. She cries. Leaving her seat, she makes her way around the table, pulling him into a hug. You did so well, Izuku. I'm so sorry I didn't say it sooner. You're going to be a great hero. She cries into his shoulder. I stare as 𝗵𝗃𝗧 tears up as well, grabbing his mom and crying into the hug. They whisper to each other and I feel a bit awkward, so I try and give them space, focusing on my food instead of what they are saying. I've eaten my third and last dumpling when they pull away, both sniffling. 𝗵𝗃𝗧 wipes his tears with his sleeve as his mom looks proudly at him. Her gaze shifts to me and widens as if just realizing I'm there. I give her a soft smile and she comes over. To my surprise, she opens her arms. I hesitantly lean forward, and she wraps me in a tight hug. Thank you. Thank you for looking out for my 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧. She whispers into my shoulder. I tear up slightly, wrapping my arms around her as well. I hide my face in her shoulder as I respond. He's an amazing person. I'm thankful to. Leave Sora? He asks worriedly. My head to look at the clock. Shoot, you're right. But it's okay, I'm sure Mom will understand. I say. I pull out my phone and don't see any new messages, so everything is probably fine. I guess I should get going then. I trail off, not quite ready to leave yet. He nods. I guess so. I don't want to take all your time. He says almost dejectedly. I turn from the two of them to grab my things. Here, Sora, I'll go wrap these up for you to take home, his mom says. Before I can try to protest, she leaves the room. 𝗵𝗃𝗧 watches as my oncoming protest is left frozen in the air and snickers. Sorry. My mom wouldn't let you leave without feeding you, he says. His hand comes up to cover his face as if to hide his amusement as I drop my stance. That's all right. Your mom's really nice, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. It's pretty nice that she's home all the time, I say while putting my bag on. We had talked about what our parents did for a living. I learned his mom was a stay-at-home mom and his dad works overseas. I walk towards him and we head out of his room down the hall. I'm in the kitchen, boys, his mom calls out. My eyes widen slightly as I walk behind 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. I didn't realize she thought I was a boy. We enter the kitchen and I smile, waiting for 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 to politely correct her. Yeah, that's where we were headed, Mom. He sasses. I barely hold back my snort of amusement at his tone, covering it with a cough instead. I also realize he didn't correct her like I expected. His mom walks around the counter, Tupperware in her hand as she walks towards me. I accept the container. Thank you for the food, 𝗬𝗍𝗪. Your rice cakes are delicious, I say politely. I don't point out that I'm actually a she. It may be cruel, but this has happened to me a lot. Ever since I started cutting my hair short at 13, people have been mistaking me for a boy more often than not. I corrected them at first, but it kind of became a game somewhere down the line. I would see how long it takes them to figure out. A part of me feels a bit bad because I've accidentally been tricking 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. But the humor for the reaction I'm going to get keeps me quiet. I'm glad you like them, Sora. You're heading home now, right? Be safe on your way home. Let 𝗧𝗃𝗃 know when you make it. Actually, Sora, how about you give me your number in case of an emergency, okay? You can never be too careful. She manages to catch me off guard again. I nod, pulling my phone out of my bag. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏's mom and I exchange information before she pulls me into a hug again. Come back anytime, hey dear, she says. I smile, wrapping my arms around her and lean into the hug. I will. Thank you, I respond softly. After she hugs a complaining 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, he and I walk to the door. Stepping outside, I look out onto the street below before turning to him. He's leaning against the wall next to his door, looking away a bit sadly. Thanks for hanging out with me today, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. Even if it was short notice. I had a lot of fun. I cheer, stepping closer in front of him. The sunlight hits his eyes as I stare, the green shining brighter like emeralds. He nods with a smile, a hand rubbing the back of his neck. I had fun today too, Sora. We should hang out again. I mean, if you want to, that is. His tone is light but unsure. I feel like I can relate. Stressful having a friend. I worry I'll mess up, come off too strong, or upset him. Looking at him, I can feel my own worries and I realize that he's probably thinking the same things as me. Knowing that, it releases a tension I didn't realize I was holding inside me. Of course I want to hang out with you. I would every day if I could. So, whenever you're free, text me. I'm sure we are both busy, but I want to hang out whenever we can. As long as you want to as well. I declare. My hand rubs the back of my neck and I feel slightly embarrassed, but I meant all of it. He smiles, looking relieved as he nods. I want to hang out as much as possible. So I promise I will as long as you do the same. His fist clenches in front of him excitedly. We agree, but before I leave I open my arms for a hug. One for the road. I ask. He steps forward, hugging me. After a brief hug I pull away, a 𝗧𝗵𝗃 grin on my face. Remember, we're doing my workout next time. You better be ready. I call as I head off. He waves as I go, saying he will be prepared before heading back inside. Slight physical violence warning. More emotional, I guess. The walk home is much more quiet than usual. After hanging out with 𝗵𝘃𝗲 all day, I can't help but miss him. It's crazy, I've known him for 2 days and I'm already looking forward to seeing him again. About 15 minutes later, I make it to my house. Climbing the front steps, I open the door to step inside, but freeze when I hear an unfamiliar voice. Hey, is that your kid? A male standing in the hallway asks. He looks as if he was headed back to the living room. A drink in his hand and his face is flushed. What kid? I hear my mother's voice. I gulp, feeling a bit of panic flowing through me. She steps into the hall, eyes narrowing when they land on me. Kasii, I thought you weren't going to be home until later. She asks, her cheeks are also a bit red from the alcohol. Why? I'm sorry, I was tired and wanted to come home, I respond a bit loudly. Mom nods at me before turning towards the man. You go to the living room, and I'll bring some more drinks. She instructs him. As he goes, she points towards the kitchen. I swallow and obey, ducking my head down as I rush past her. Once through the doorway, she comes up behind me. I told you to watch your phone, she hisses. I look away, I can smell the alcohol on her breath. I did dash, my head turns to the side as something strikes my face. Do not talk back to me right now. You're lucky they were already buzzed and most likely won't remember you. She scolds, her hands still raised in the air. She clenches her fist, before taking a deep breath and sighing. Now then, her voice raises, grab the ice from the freezer. I need to refill the cooler. She orders. I nod. Why, yes, Mom. And do as she says. I try not to sniffle and ignore the stinging of my cheek. She goes back into the living room and I'm able to hear the conversation. That's your quirkless kid, huh? It must be rough on you to be raising her. A female's voice rings out. The man from the hallway scoffs. Didn't look like a girl to me. It's not right for a young girl to be looking that way. She's free to make her own choices. It's the least I could do since she's going to have a hard life without a quirk. My mom's smooth voice cuts through. The female speaks up to say how much of a good mother she was, and that she wouldn't be able to do it herself. I sniffle while cupping my cheek, but quickly move my hand away. I work on having the ice bag out for Mom when she returns. She brings the cooler in and dumps the water out, stacking empties by the sink. I can feel how upset she is while she hands me the cooler. I silently fill it up before hesitantly asking, "Where's Dad at?" Her mood sours. He and his buddies went to the casino. He said we were talking too much for him to enjoy his drink. She mutters, pulling new drinks out of the fridge into the now ice-filled cooler. I frown. That's rude. I say softly. She nods. Well, that's your dad. Always thinking he's better than me even though I'm the one doing the work around here. Her voice raises slightly before she sighs. I don't. Academy High School goes well at least. I had taken the night off at work. Jim tried his best to pump me up for it Monday night. It's weeks like this that I'm especially grateful for him and my other coworkers. Without them, I don't know how I would survive with my odd home situation. Before I know it, it's Friday, the day we were promised UA exam results. March 6, 2015, still no results yet? 12:24 p.m. I chuckle as I send it to 𝗵𝘃𝗲. This week had been busy, but it was still moving slowly. They said a week, Sora. 12:26 p.m. Be patient, it should be coming today. 12:26 p.m. I smile reading his response. I know he's right, but that doesn't make me any less eager. 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗲 patience, my one weakness. 12:26 p.m. I guess I can try. Enjoy your lunch 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. Wink with tongue sticking out. 12:27 p.m. I chuckle before pocketing my phone and continuing to eat my lunch. His mom said she would be on the lookout for the letter. So I'm relying on him at the moment since my parents aren't home to let me know. It's a good thing too, since mom would definitely open and read the letter. I take the last bite of my rice before closing my bento box. Sitting idly at my desk and just waiting for class to start, that's when I hear a voice behind me. Have you finally lost it? Being quirkless must be making you stupider. It taunts. I turn and sigh, seeing 𝗳𝗏𝗃𝗁𝗧𝗏. He's a boy in my class that has always voiced his distaste of me. From picking on me to hiding my things, he's always tried to get a rise out of me. Despite his rude actions, he's got a pretty cool quirk called 𝗵𝘃𝗲. He's able to convert sunshine into sustenance for himself or to increase his strength. On the downside, if he goes without sunshine for too long, he gets fatigued. I watch as he stands against the window sill a little ways away from me. His friend sitting at the desk in front of him turned to face me as well. Lost what? I ask politely, even though I don't want to respond. 𝗳𝗏𝗃𝗁𝗧𝗏 laughs as 𝗧𝗵𝗲 speaks up. Seems like she's already brain dead. She doesn't even understand what you're talking about. He laughs. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, he's 𝗳𝗏𝗃𝗲's closest friend. Or follower. His quirk deals with portals. They're small, but they could get larger as he grows. He's able to open a portal just larger than his hand and reach through it, but it's like my quirk. He needs to have seen the place to open a portal there. I also don't know how many he can open at once, just that it's how they've hid my things without being caught. 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗁𝗧𝗏, I'm talking about how you're sitting there laughing to yourself. 𝗳𝗏𝗃𝗁𝗧𝗏 answers. What's a loser like you have to laugh about? Did you see your reflection or something? 𝗧𝗵𝗲 asks smugly. I pause for a moment. Before nodding, I was thinking about my future. That's why I was laughing. I say with a tight smile. 𝗳𝗏𝗃𝗁𝗧𝗏 shakes his head as he laughs, not surprised because this is how I usually respond. I knew it. You are getting stupider. He grunts. At least you know that your future is a joke. It's good to be self-aware, right 𝗳𝗏𝗃𝗁𝗧𝗏? 𝗧𝗵𝗲 goes to add something else but is cut off by a female voice. Are you guys really wasting your time talking to her? Come on, we have better things to focus on. Her voice cuts through their laughter. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 blushes, agreeing right away as 𝗳𝗏𝗃𝗁𝗧𝗏 sighs. I just wanted a laugh. Sora's life always gives me a good one, 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗏. He sighs as the girl steps closer. Focus on the entrance exams, we have to do our best. You're right though? We will look good compared to her no matter what. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗏 says. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗏, she's a quick-witted girl. Always fast to answer the teacher, and is excelling in our class. Her quirk is amination. She can manipulate any object, and control it like a puppet on strings. It doesn't work on the living, and the size of the object affects her control. I've always wondered if she could animate a corpse. I blink in surprise, shaking my head. I shouldn't think like that. It's Dad's fault because of his morbid stories. With her arrival, the boys take their focus off of me, letting me relax slightly. I prefer they leave me alone. I've come to find that agreeing with them and making myself the butt of the joke keeps things from escalating. While I go back to just sitting there, I happen to overhear them talking about their upcoming entrance exams. Despite the popularity of heroes, not everyone wants to be one. 𝗳𝗏𝗃𝗁𝗧𝗏 has been interested in sports since he was a kid and wants to be a multi-star athlete. 𝗧𝗵𝗲's grandfather owns a candy store, and he wants to follow into the business as a confectioner. Then there's 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗏. She's always loved theater and acting. She wants to use her quirk to perform and make props. I've always thought it was cool that they know what they want to do. All their goals sound so incredible, and I hope they make it. Especially because they won't ever run into me while I work towards my own goal. Lunch ends and classes resume, nothing much happening throughout the school day. I get home after school, disappointed when there is no letter, and trudge off to work instead. I text 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗁𝗧𝗏 a few more times before my shift. Later in the night, around 8:20, my phone starts to ring in my locker. Sora, your phone's ringing. It must be important if it's your phone. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗁𝗧𝗏 calls from the counter. I roll my eyes at him but make my way over. You can take the call. There are no customers right now anyways. He tells me. I smile and thank him. Grabbing my phone from my locker, I'm surprised when I see 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 is calling me. I fumble, answering the phone quickly. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧. What's up? You hardly call. I ask. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗃 stands a bit closer, his nosy but trying to listen in. He didn't know I was about to be hollering it out loud for him. Sora. It came. The admission letters came, I just read mine. While I also listened to it, there was a hologram. I got in. You were right, well, not about the 0-pointer, but about there being more to it and it counting for something. There were hero points. And I got them for saving that girl. She even tried asking the judges if I could take some of her points. She's really sweet. Can you believe it? A girl wanted to help me. Oh, I'm rambling now. I'm sorry, but I can't believe this. I got in. Have you checked for yours yet? It must have been delivered too. He rambles excitedly over the phone. My eyes widen, a shocked, overjoyed look coming over my face. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 stares at me, and as soon as 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 is done talking, I celebrate. I knew it. You did amazing, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧. There was no way they weren't going to accept you. Of course you got the hidden points. You weren't even worried about that, you just wanted to save her like a real hero. I haven't been able to check the mail. I won't be able to for a while. I respond. I don't notice 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 leaving the counter as I continue my conversation. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 continues to explain the letter and celebrate. I listen, sending compliments when I can. I'm so happy that he was accepted into you, unable to express how overjoyed I am for him. As we're discussing his success, I feel a tap on my shoulder. Turning to my left, I see Jim standing there and my face pales. Hold on, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧. I say into the phone before pulling it away. Jim crosses his arms, staring at me before nodding towards the back. You can go for the night, kiddo. We can handle it here. You go grab those results. At my shocked expression, he ruffles my hair. You better show your acceptance letter tomorrow, or you'll be working an extra shift. He jokingly threats. I smile wide, hugging him. I see 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧, who had gotten Jim when he overheard my conversation. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll bring it in tomorrow. And with that, I grab my stuff, flying out of the store and running home. I place the phone against my ear. I'm headed home right now, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧. Really? I'm sure you passed. Want me to stay on the phone? Or do you want to open it alone? Yes. I shake my head as I run, even though can't see it. Neither. I'll see you at your house. I say, rounding the corner. With a burst of speed, I shoot down my sidewalk and barely catch myself before I slam into my front door. I open the mail slot, sticking my hand inside and frantically grabbing at anything. I pull out a thick white envelope clasped in my hand. Turning it over, I see the UA logo pressed into the red seal. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧's voice calls out over the phone. What do you mean here? You can't rush over here just for that. I drop my bag and hoodie on the porch and chuckle into the phone. Then I'm teleporting myself to his street without another thought. I'm lightheaded, groaning into the phone softly. I won't be able to teleport myself back, but it's worth it to see him. I can teleport 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧. I'm on your street now, I'm headed up. I say into the phone. My pace is a bit slower, rushing as much as I can with the energy drain. I get to 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧's floor and he's standing outside the apartment, phone against his ear as he stares at me. Hi. I say, breathless with a wild smile. He chuckles, talking into the phone. Hi, Sora. We hang up our phones, walking towards each other. I hold up the unopened envelope, my hands shaking. I breathe heavily, trying to calm down. He grabs my hands around the envelope, trying to help calm my nerves. Before he can say anything, the apartment door opens, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧's mom poking her head out. Izuku. She sees him standing in front of me and her eyes widen. Drifting from us to the letter we're holding. Sora, you got your results. What do they say? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 turns towards her. He hasn't opened them yet, turning back towards me. Want to head inside? Yes. I nod rapidly and we all head inside, sitting in the same spots at the table from last time. I look at them, then down at the envelope, my name printed on the front of it. I steel myself before ripping it open at the end. I tip the contents onto the table, a gray circle rolling across it. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 grabs and flips it over, the disc displaying a hologram that makes my eyes widen. We all watch in silence as it plays, showing All Might. I am here as a projector now. You're looking at the newest UA faculty member. They assign me to tell you your results. He pauses, smiling with dramatic effect. Sora, you passed the written test, but only managed to get 10 combat points in the practical exam. I frown slightly as he pauses. Does that mean I didn't get enough points after all? However, there were other factors. He clears his throat. I'm on the edge of my seat, hoping for good news. The practical exam was not graded on combat alone. How could a hero course overlook someone who is determined to help others, even though it causes them to fall behind the rest? It's things like that which makes a hero, and that's why there are rescue points. A panel of judges watch, and they award points for heroic acts beyond just fighting villains. He clutches his fist in celebration. Sora Kasii, 45 rescue points? His fist turning into a welcoming outstretched hand. It's my job to now welcome you, Kasii, because you're now part of the Hero Academia School UA. You made it. It freezes on All Might's smiling face zoomed in. I stare, unbelieving of what happened, but soon I'm being tackled into a side hug. Sora, you did it. We did it. We made it in together. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃 cries, grabbing onto me. I'm frozen for a moment in his hold, before a tear rolls down my cheek. Once it starts I can't stop them. I turn grabbing onto him as we cry in relief together. We did. We did it, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃. I cry. His mom watches the heartfelt moment, before getting up to make celebratory snacks. I clutch onto 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃, crying into his shoulder. His tears finish before mine, him having cried already. I sniffle into his shoulder. A part of me never thought I was actually going to make it. I was living as a quirkless kid. The people around me reminded me of that every day. But I'm not alone. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃 is the same as me, and now we both are going to prove how wrong everyone else was. We'll show them all that we can be heroes too. I cry into his hold. Waya. We will Sora. He says, patting my back. I pull away, looking at his tear-stained face. You look like a mess. I tease, rubbing my cheeks. He scoffs. You're no better, I laugh, knowing it was true. His mom comes back with a plate of fruit cut into cute animals, as well as some mochi. I giggle, taking a rabbit ear-themed apple slice. Leaning against 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃 I sigh happily. I can't wait to start going to UA with my friend by my side. Once I'm less emotional, I decide to look through the rest of the papers in the acceptance letter. To my surprise, there's a hero costume form among the stack. I pull it out and start to read over the requirements. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃, we have to choose our hero costumes now. He looks over before nodding. Yeah, I read over it earlier. It's so they can begin making our outfits. Then we can train with them at school and improve the designs. He recalls before standing and leaving the dining room. I watch as he leaves before his mom speaks up. Oh, Izuku has the cutest design idea. He based it off of All Might. He's been drawing costume designs since he was a little boy. She tells me. I giggle, I can't wait to see it. I still can't believe him and I are both going to you. It doesn't feel real, Oba-san. I mumble at the end. She smiles warmly at me, but before she can respond, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃 returns with papers in his hand. I have mine right here, he says, coming back to the table. He sets down the paper, and I glance over looking at his design. My eyes light up as I see it. That looks great, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗃. I knew you could draw well from your notebooks, but seriously, the details in this are insane. I say as I lift up the design for a closer inspection. I have a rough idea about what I want mine to look like. Do you think we could work on them now? I ask. He beams brightly. Absolutely. Let me grab us something to write with, he says. He returns quickly with a pencil box, sitting back down at the table. Awesome. Let's get to work. I say and grab a pencil. Under the section that says materials and design, I start a sketch of my would-be outfit. It's a simple black jumpsuit, a zipper on the front and pockets in the stomach area. Then there's a hood/mask combo sketched out too. The hood has cat ears on the top and drapes across my shoulders like a cloak, ending where my melons are. There are notes in the margins. Lightweight and breathable material, black matte fabric for the jumpsuit, gray for the hood, and purple for the mask waterproof material. I show the design and notes to 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗧 after I finish a rough sketch. My artwork isn't as good as his, but you can definitely tell what I drew. Oh, waterproof material. I didn't think of something like that. That's really smart. Cold and heat-resistant would be nice too now that I think of it. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗧 says as he adds the notes to his own. Oh, you're right. That would be a great combination. I respond, adding it as well. Back and forth about our designs. I end up teasing him about his being inspired by All Might. Your mask is supposed to mimic his big grin, right? You're so cute, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗧. I think it's great he inspired your costume. He puffs his cheeks out in a slight pout. Well, All Might is really awesome, so of course he inspired me. What is yours inspired by, Sora? He asks with a smile. I rub the back of my neck slightly. Well, nothing really. I chose the hood and mask to cover my face, in case someone I knew saw me. The jumpsuit just seemed easy to move in, and I like cats, so I wanted the ears, I say lamely. I feel a little out of place since I have no inspiration. What 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗧 does next makes me wonder if he could tell how I felt. Those are all great reasons. That makes it an original creation of your own then. It's purely yours. Besides, the cat ears are cute, they make it special to you, right? He says with a bright smile. I feel giddy as I agree. Yeah, I guess they do. But I say softly, staring at my design in a new light. We continue to go over our costumes before moving on to the support objects next. This is something I've thought of for a while now, but I think it would be great if they could make a watch that can show where my energy levels are at, since I get tired when using my quirk. I say as I point at the watch I had drawn. It's a simple band with a thin screen. The screen ranges in rainbow colors. Red meaning low and purple meaning high. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗧 nods, looking over my notes. That's a really good idea. I didn't really think of many support items that I wanted, just a utility belt and the face shield. He states. I glance over to his paper. A utility belt. That's genius. Mind if I copy that idea? Since I want to be a rescuing hero, it would be good for me to have first aid supplies and things to regain my energy ready for me at all times. I ask him, glancing over at his design. I start sketching a simple belt with 4 different sized pouches around the waist. He nods, seemingly bashful. I'm glad you like it. That does sound like something that would work for you. Wait, you want to be a rescuing hero. I never asked what kind of hero you wanted to be before. He mumbles to himself at the end. I nudge his shoulder. Yeah. I think my quirk could help people get to the hospitals faster. It would also be good for hostage situations or something similar. I don't want to be a big-name hero or fight villains. I just want to help those I can. I respond softly. What kind of hero do you want to be, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗧𝗧? His hands clench as he responds, his voice serious and taking on a tone of desperation again. I want to be a fearless hero. One that can smile through danger and make everyone feel relieved. I want to be just like All Might and reassure everyone that it's going to be okay, he says earnestly. I take in his words, moved by how strong of a longing he has for his goal. Whoa, you just gave me chills. I say, clutching my arms. You're going to be a great hero. I already know it. I already feel relieved whenever I'm around you. I say honestly. He peeks up at me, seriously. You're not just saying that. He asks, doubtful but hoping I meant it. Seriously, I nod. That's how I felt when you jumped at that robot. I felt relieved. I didn't even make sure you hit it or not because I knew you would. You became my hero that day, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗧𝗧. I promise I'm not just saying this. I respond firmly, before leaning over and hugging him. So don't cry, alright? Believe in yourself, like how I believe in you. I say as I pat his back. He sniffles and I feel quiet tears drop onto my shirt as we sit there. I squeeze him lightly, reminding myself more than him that he is here, and I'm not alone anymore. After a minute or two he pulls away. We recollect ourselves and continue to work on our papers. What about goggles? He asks me after a few moments of silence had passed. I hum questioningly as I color in my suit. Goggles? I repeat. He nods. Your quirk uses your vision, so goggles would help nothing interfere with your line of sight. He remarks, not looking up from his own design. I pause my coloring and look up at him. Holy CRP, that's genius. How didn't I think of that before? I say, hurriedly sketching a pair. The sun gets in my way a lot when I'm trying to see something. If I add a sunglasses feature to them as well, it would make my life easier. You're amazing, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃. I compliment. He rubs the back of his neck. It was just an observation. I'm sure you would have thought of it eventually. He tries to deflect. I shake my head at him. Whether I did or not, you just helped me avoid waiting longer to get them. So quit selling yourself short. I state. I draw the goggles, him and I going over the design before I'm satisfied. I think mine is all set. What about yours? He nods as well. I can't think of anything else to add. He trails off. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃's mom had left for the kitchen a while ago, sneaking out without us noticing. It's only then that we notice the smell of food in the air as she walks to the table holding a plate. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃 and I put away our papers, getting up to help set the table. The three of us chat over the delicious dinner his mom made, talking about the good news and upcoming semester. We try to guess who our teachers could be and what the classes would be like. Sadly, after dinner, I was instructed to teleport back home since it was so late. After hugging them both goodbye, I left, teleporting back to the alley near my home. Walking back up the steps to my house, I collect all my stuff I had dropped. Before I sneak inside through the front porch window. After going through my nightly routine, I lay in bed content, well-fed, and overjoyed. I drift off to sleep with the exciting thoughts of going to hero school and hanging out with 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃 in the future. March 7, 2015. The next morning is Saturday. I went through my acceptance packet and found an acceptance letter for my general studies application too. That's the one I show my parents. Their reactions weren't much different from the entrance exam letter, but after spending the night with the 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃, it doesn't bother me so much. I focus on how happy I feel about it, and knowing I have 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃 going with me makes me feel a whole lot better. He and I decided to spend our free weekend separate from each other. He had something come up, so I said I was celebrating with my parents. If deep cleaning the house counted as celebrating. But little did I know he was meeting with all might at the beach. My week continues the same, school in the day, work at night Monday through Friday. Jim and the others all congratulated me. The week was filled with hugs from each of my coworkers. Jim jokingly said he should frame my letter in the store so I would have to come back and see him when I'm feeling nostalgic. That thought makes me a little sad. I had known Jim for so long, but to reach my dream I couldn't stay here. The work week went by nicely, and I felt myself already missing the place even though I hadn't left yet. That Friday night I gave Jim a hug before leaving. He didn't say anything as he hugged me as well, patting my back soothingly. March 14, 2015. The following Saturday, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃 and I are both free again. Alright, I'm headed to the library. I call as I leave the house. My parents calling out their own goodbyes. Truthfully, I'm headed to the pier to see 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃. It was time I showed him where I had been training. Good morning, Sora. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃 calls upon seeing me. I repeat the greeting before asking if he's ready. When he nods, I smile, leading him to the abandoned building. We come up to it, the metal fence surrounding the run-down-looking storage space. This is it. Come on, I'll show you inside. I start climbing the fence right away, but 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃 pauses. Are you allowed to do that? He asks, watching as I scale the metal fencing. I drop down onto the other side, brushing my hands together as I face him. I haven't had any issues yet. There's no trespassing signs, and the building's abandoned. So I think it's fine. Are you coming? I ask. He clutches his bag nervously, silently debating it. After a few moments I sigh. He's probably too worried about getting caught, so using my quirk I bring him to the other side. My stomach drops, not used to teleporting something living. I squint at him as I feel my blood rush slightly. There, and now you're good, I say. He stumbles slightly and I place a hand on his shoulder, steadying him and myself. Che. That wasn't nice. Oh, your quirk is so disorienting. He slurs, a hand coming up to rub his face. I freeze, a different feeling dropping in my stomach as I realize what I did. I bite my lip as a sick feeling fills my gut. I immediately regret using my quirk on him, wishing I could take it back. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃. I should have asked. I just thought no, I wasn't thinking. Sorry. I won't use my quirk on you again unless you're in danger. Is that alright? I ask hesitantly. I berate myself for being so foolish. I should know more than anyone how bad someone using their quirk on you without permission can feel. He shakes the aftereffects of my quirk off and his gaze softens at my panic. No. It's fine. I believe you won't use it to do anything wrong. I'm sorry, I should have been more open to following you. Since you did follow me into the junkyard last time. He responds softly. I shake my head violently at his explanation. No, you had a key to the place. That's way more trustworthy than jumping a fence. I shouldn't have decided to use my quirk on you like that. I promise I'll ask next time, okay? I say softly. Sora, it's okay. You didn't hurt me, see? I'm fine. Now show me the place. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 asks. I nod, looking him over before taking a deep breath and agreeing. We make our way to the door. I swing it open easily since the lock is broken. Taking a deep breath as we walk inside, I try and shake off the guilt I had felt. The inside of the building is large, metal chains hanging from the ceiling. It looks well kept and clean, despite the overgrown grass and broken windows outside the building. I turn towards him, spreading my arms out. Welcome to La Casa de Kasii. Make yourself comfortable. As you can see, we have plenty of space and no chairs for sitting. Because sitting is weak. I joke weakly, trying to shake off the sick feeling in my gut. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 looks around, barking out a laugh that echoes slightly. My eyes lighten up at his laugh, the warmth of it replacing the ickiness I felt. Alright, I see the place, but where do you train at? He asks, his gaze wandering around the spacious building. I'm glad you asked. Step right up and I'll give you the tour. It's one way, so don't worry about getting lost. I say with a grin. It widens as he laughs again, shaking his head at me. I point out all the things I use the building for. The dangling chains for climbing. There's stairs in the back corner that take you to the next floor. The floor is a mezzanine only covering half the building, and where I teleported most of the storage to. A catwalk stretches from one side of the second floor to the other, some chains hanging nearby it. I explain how I climb the chains onto the catwalk, before jumping back down. Either using the chains in my descent or practicing my landings. I walk under the open metal stairs, explaining how I use them to climb upwards with my hands, pointing at a bar that hangs under the second floor. I climb up there, then use that bar for pull-ups. It took me a while to make it to the top and actually complete one though. I say with a smile. Walking up the stairs, I show him the boxes and parts to random things. Some small like gears and books, others large like old car doors and wooden fencing. This stuff I move around to practice with my quirk. Like how much I can teleport at once, which is basically anything I can see. Or how many times I can do it before feeling fatigued. With things smaller than my hand, I can get to just over 50 teleports before my energy starts to decline too much. But if I consume something, I can use my quirk again instantly. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 watches as I explain everything. It seems almost a bit absurd to see any type of training potential here. It's basically parkour training. So he's thoroughly intrigued with everything I describe. So, you've been training here with your quirk? To keep others from knowing? Yeah, that's right. I need to understand my quirk, what my limits are, but away from the people I know. I turn and look around the building before my gaze falls back onto him. You know, I never expected to show this place to anyone. It feels brighter with you here. I say softly. All right then, I want to try everything you described. He raises a fist in excitement. I laugh, running onto the catwalk. Meet you down below, I say, flexing my ankles. I grab the side railing and jump off, landing comfortably onto my feet, falling into a shoulder roll and catching myself. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 watches, his eyes widening before he races down the stairs. Hearing me tell him I jumped down from there and actually seeing it are two different things. He can't help but be relieved when he sees me waiting for him and not lying on the ground hurt. I smile with a wave. He walks up to me and we begin to warm up our muscles. Afterwards I walk over to the chains. Ever climbed a chain before? I say, grabbing one. It can't be too different from rope climbing, he says, and I smirk. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗲 𝗵𝗃𝗃 turns out chain climbing is a bit different than rope climbing. It takes me a couple attempts to get the hang of it. The sweat building on my palms makes the metal slippery. Thankfully Sora's instructions are easy to understand and soon enough I'm next to the catwalk. You can slide back down if you want. The catwalk is a bit difficult to climb on too. It took me a couple tries. He calls up from down below. I glance down before deciding to attempt it. Swaying the chain slightly, I reach out with one hand. Just as my fingers brush the bar of the catwalk, my one-handed grip on the chain slips. What? I cry out as I fall. Before I can rip the chain, my vision is shifting. My head spins slightly as I blink, heart still beating wildly from the panic. A hand grasps my shoulder. I look over to see Sora looking up at me. His other hand is clutching at his head, face scrunched up. "I'm sorry. I used it again without asking you," he says softly, his voice sounding strained. I frown. "It's fine, Sora. You saved me from getting hurt right then. You don't need to ask to help me," I tell him. His reaction to using his quirk confuses and worries me. I can understand that using your quirk on someone without asking is rude, but Sora looks so guilty. As if he caused me pain just by moving me around or catching my fall. Sure, earlier it caught me by surprise, but I wouldn't have said no if he asked. Yet now, there was no time to ask, and if he had I would have gotten hurt. My thoughts jumble up as I try to figure out why he looks so guilty whenever he uses his quirk on me. I guess you're right. It was an emergency, he mumbles to himself. His gaze lifts, blue eyes meeting mine as he says, "I'm glad I could help you, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲. Thanks for the save," I smile before turning towards the chains. You're right, it's a bit tricky to balance everything to climb onto the catwalk. The more I tried to hold still, the more my body would shake on the chain. And then when I was swaying, I didn't realize I stopped focusing on my grip on the chain. There's so many things you have to pay attention to, or else you'll fall. Maybe if I focus more my weight towards my legs, I can give my hands more room for error. I begin to ramble on, thinking of the different ways to overcome the obstacle. When Sora lets go of my shoulder, I realize I was on another tangent. I cover my mouth. "Sorry," just like every other time. Sora shakes his head. "Don't be. That's definitely a good method to try. I could work on finding different ways to use the chains too. Instead of getting comfortable in only one form." He responds while moving to his bag and pulling out a protein bar. I watch surprised as I've never had someone be so unbothered by my mumbling, to the point where they even responded to what I was saying. I feel my chest warm. It's nice having someone listen. Before I can attempt the chains again, Sora suggests we move on so I can try everything at least once before we have to leave. I smile after him, following his lead to the next item. Kasei's 𝗵𝗃𝗲. Yes, I know, 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗄 was short. After I eat, we continue running through the different areas I play in. Excuse me, I mean train in. I've come to realize that my workouts are mainly upper body, core, and balance-centered. Without the jogs I take and heavy lifting at work once a week, I would have no leg exercises. Maybe that explains why any fat my body stores goes to my hips and thighs. Anyways, I show him the wood paneling next, since his climbing muscles have been partially warmed up. I show him how I grip the 2-inch wide wood and use my feet to press against the 4-inch sides to push and pull my way upwards. When I get to where the catwalk starts, I reach up and grab the metal bars framing underneath the walkway, using them like monkey bars to climb my way to a nearby supporting pole. That I then slide down that like a firefighter. I'm breathing a bit heavily. My head is light from the 2 times I've teleported 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲. I try to relax and watch as he tries next. His grip strength is impressive, but he struggles when it comes to balancing his body weight. His feet slipping every so often. He catches himself every time though and makes it to the top on the first run. Monkey barring across, he slides down the pole as well. Instead of landing on his feet, he drops onto the ground, laying flat on his back and stretching out as he looks at his hands. My hands seriously burn right now. That took a lot of effort, he says, flexing his hands. I walk up to him, bending over and looking down at his upside-down face. Even so, you are doing great. You managed to complete it on your first try, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲. It even took me a couple tries to complete that. Your arm strength is on a different level. I compliment while giving my feedback. It took me a while to build my arm strength enough to be able to hold my body during that climb. To see 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗍 complete it so well, he truly is amazing. After a short break, where I eat another protein bar to recover my energy and 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗍 rests his hands, we move on. Starting on the stairs, I demonstrate the drop and rolls I do for the platform jump. It's hard to explain. My body is used to doing it now. I land flat but shift to the ball of my feet. And using the momentum from the drop I roll onto my shoulder and stand again, if that makes sense. He nods, mumbling over the different muscles in the foot and how much coordination you need to utilize it. I walk his through some practice shoulder rolls from a standing position so he can get a feel for it. After a while he seems to have it down, but we decide against the platform drops. We'll make our way up higher as he practices and progresses. Next I show him the open stairs. The stairs are metal, so if you get too sweaty your grip weakens, I say, grabbing onto the stairs just in my reach and pulling my body weight up. Lifting myself with my hands I reach one upwards, grabbing the next stair and pulling myself up. I complete this for 8 stairs before I get to the top. Holding on the last stair, my head tilts back locating the bar I mentioned. I steady my body before reaching back and grabbing it. My body drops slightly and I swing back, holding tightly as I regain control of the sway. Once I'm stable again I smile at 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗍 and do 5 pull-ups, before my arms begin to shake. I flex my ankles again before dropping down. I stand in a 𝗬𝗲 position for 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗍, before bowing, see. You got this, just be careful when you 𝗬𝗍𝗍𝗍 to the bar. I breathe out. He nods, walking up to the stairs and taking a hold of one. He drops back onto the ground when he attempts to climb upwards, unused to the method. Determined he looks calculating at it before trying again. Lift this arm, then pull up with this one. He mutters. I watch as he begins to climb, a bit slower and more hesitant than my own. I grin widely when he makes it to the top. Holy heck. You're right there 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗍. Be careful. I say excited. He glances at me slightly with a focused nod. Turning his attention to the bar, he reaches his hand out towards it. Upon making contact he grabs it and lets go of the stairs. On his swing down one of his hands slip and I watch worried as he sways unevenly. But I didn't have to worry long, because he was able to use his one hand to cling onto the bar. The other hand grabs onto the bar the moment he calms his swaying and I cheer. Heck yeah. Look at you. His arms shake slightly, he gets 2 pull-ups in before dropping. As I walk up to him I notice he's radiating heat and covered in sweat, but so am I. Nice job 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗍. I exclaim. He wipes his chin with his hand, slightly. That takes some serious arm strength and core control. Dang sorry you made it all look so easy. He stands up, stretching his arms over his head. I smile. I've just had a lot of time to practice. If you keep at it it'll be easier. Besides you lifted a lot more than me last time. I watch as 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗍 uses the bottom of his shirt to wipe the sweat off his forehead and I smirk slightly. It's pretty hot in here, I call out before pulling my shirt over my head. The black shirt I wore slides off, revealing the gray chest binder I'm wearing. I throw the shirt around my neck like a sweat rag, turning to 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗍. I watch as his expression morphs. He went from agreeing with me but upon dropping his shirt and looking at me he freezes, then turns sheepish. Finally registering what he's seeing his chin drops, a fully shocked look on his face. Sora? He swallows. You're a girl? His voice echoes slightly in the building. I quirk an eye at him. Yeah. Wasn't that obvious? I watch as he shuts his mouth, before his face goes red. I can't hold it anymore and burst out laughing. I bend over laughing hard and unable to breathe. Why your face? 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗍's embarrassment calms down slightly as he watches me laugh. His initial reaction is to deadpan as I laugh at him, but it's different this time. He's replacing all his memories of the Sora he thought was a guy, with me as a girl. Holding a hand over his mouth as he remembers how many times we had bantered and physically encountered. He sees the guy who became close to him in a short amount of time. And a part of him feels bad that he didn't know. That he mistakenly thought that I was a boy. He thinks of all the times he referred to me as 𝗬𝗍𝗍𝗍. Actually, he referred to me as a male a lot. And I never once corrected him. Sora. What why? He asks as I regain my breathing, laughter still bubbling up out of me. I drop to the ground, looking up at him and watching as the gears turn in his head. I'm not sure what you're asking me, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲. Could you be a bit more specific? I tease. I could probably guess what he's asking, but I'm going to drag this out as much as I can. He sighs, hands covering his face as he turns away. After composing himself, he tries again. Why didn't you tell me you were a girl? You listened to me say 𝗧𝗵𝗲 so much? He exclaims, voice cracking slightly. I snort, sitting up and staring at his back as he faces away. Well, I didn't know you thought I was a boy until I met your mom. After that, I decided to see if you would figure it out, but I got impatient, and I didn't like lying to you. There's still humor in my voice, but it slips into something more soft when I continue. So, I figured this could be a big reveal. I'd get your reaction, which was great by the way, and it would also clear up the misunderstanding. While he takes in my words, I continue to watch as he faces away from me, his hands dropping down to his sides slightly. So it was my mistake. But you decided to make a joke out of it. His head drops down slightly and I feel slightly panicked. Are you mad? I didn't want to upset Dash. I start but he cuts me off. Of course not. You should have been mad at me. I thought you were a boy. I'm glad you weren't upset by it. But I still feel bad. If I had known. He emphasizes. I move to stand up, my face scrunching up in upset and confusion. There's no reason for me to be mad at you. If you had known. What do you mean? 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲, look at me. I say, walking up to him. His shoulder jumps as my hand grabs it and he steps forwards. I can't. Sora, he trails off. My stomach drops, but before I can think the worst he says, I'm way too embarrassed right now. I blink. I blink again. Before a relieved smile spreads across my face. Embarrassed. Why are you embarrassed? I walk around him, catching a glimpse of his bright red face. I swear I can see steam if I squint closely. He notices me and turns his head away. Shirt. Put your shirt on. He cries. I laugh and, taking pity, I pull the shirt off my shoulders. Sliding it back on, I say, it's back on, now talk to me, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲. What's the issue? His hands swipe over his flushed face as I walk closer again. This time I stop directly in front of him, staring as he peeks through his fingers. It's not an issue. I've been hanging out with a girl. A girl is my friend, and you've seen me cry so many times. He says from behind his hands. My head tilts as I chuckle in disbelief. Don't feel bad for crying around me. Does me being a girl change that much? I ask, my face dropping in worry. Can we still be friends now that you know I'm a girl? I bite my lip, my heart tightening in panic. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 watches me, his eyes clenching shut before he lets out a long sigh. His hands slowly drop from his face, one going to the back of his neck. No. It doesn't change that we are friends. I guess. You're still you. Boy or girl, I just got embarrassed. Sighing in relief, I walk up to him and my arms stretch out slightly. Can I still get hugs from you? It won't bother you? I ask softly. I'm hesitant while asking. What if this is pushing too much? I just saw how embarrassed he got over it all, but to my surprise and relief, he nods. Yes. It won't ever bother me. He says seriously, stepping forward into my arms, but his hold is slightly hesitant until I jab him in his side. Okay. His arms drop more firmly. I chuckle before cringing at our sweaty shirts pressing together. Get off, you're covered in sweat. This feels grossest. I complain. He laughs, stepping back and shaking his head. You literally asked for the hug. Geez, Sora. You're something else. I snort, fanning my shirt on my body. I'm taking that as a compliment. Now, are we good? I ask, holding out my hand. He smiles softly, grasping it with his own as we shake. Yeah, we're good. This won't change anything. He states. Despite saying that the new information did change some things, nothing quite drastic, but our friendship had shifted. We continued with our workout, ending with some push-ups, planks, squats and the likes. Afterwards we started to head out, 𝗵𝗃𝗬𝗂 climbing the fence on his own, and we walked down towards the pier. "Do you want me to walk you home, Sora?" he asks, rubbing the back of his neck. I look over in surprise. "What? Where's this coming from? You never asked before," I state. He flushes slightly before mumbling, "Well, it was rude of me to never offer in the past. Mom wouldn't like knowing I let you walk home alone." "Oh shoot. I have to tell Mom," he responds. I watch as he realizes he has to explain to his mom the mix-up on my gender. I laugh, bumping into his side and making him stumble. "I'll be fine walking home alone. My parents wouldn't be happy seeing me with a boy anyways. Actually, I don't think they would care, but I want to keep him away from them." "I wish you good luck telling your mom," I tease. He regains his footing before turning to me with an affronted look. "You can't leave me to explain this to her. It's your gender," he comments amused. I stick my tongue out at him. "That sounds like your problem." We banter a bit back and forth, getting more comfortable with each other again, actually a bit closer than we were before. I decide to stop at his house since I'm in no rush to go home. 𝗵𝗃𝗬𝗂's mom is caught off guard at the reveal as well, but laughs it off. She ruffles my hair and lets me know to correct her next time something like that happens. With a promise made to her, I hang out with 𝗵𝗃𝗬𝗂 in his room. We complete number 12 and move on to the red number 11 notebook, going through his notes until I have to go home. I smile on the walk back. It was nice to finally be more honest with 𝗵𝗃𝗬𝗂. I'm glad that after his embarrassment he was able to slip back into our friendship without much of an issue. Going to bed that night, I shoot him a text before falling asleep. "Good night, 𝗵𝗃𝗬𝗂. Signed female Sora. 9:14 p.m. You're never going to drop this. 9:15 p.m. Good night, Sora. I'm happy you're my friend." 9:15 p.m. March 15, 2015 Sunday morning. I woke up early due to my mom banging on my door. Glancing at the time on my phone, I groan as I see it's 5:42 a.m. And why so early? I'm exhausted. I plop back down onto my bed, my limbs sore from yesterday's training. I almost fall back asleep when I'm startled back awake. Asterisk bang bang bang. Asterisk, come on Kasii. You're not being lazy today. Get your butt out of bed and downstairs. Mom yells. I sigh, calling out I'm awake. I drag myself out of bed and head out of my room. After using the bathroom and making breakfast, Mom tells me she needs me out of the house later today. It's not for a party, but a meeting. I agree quickly, and after cleaning up the kitchen I grab my phone from upstairs. Good morning, Sora. 6:49 a.m. I smile seeing the message, responding quickly. Morning, 𝗵𝗃𝗬𝗂. 7:01 a.m. Do you have any plans today? 7:02 a.m. I get dressed and pack my bag, grabbing anything I might need today since I don't plan on coming home until nightfall. After saying goodbye to my parents, I leave the house. My phone buzzes in my hoodie pocket. Do you want to hang out again? 7:12 a.m. Yeah, I'd love to. When are you available? 7:13 a.m. I wait not so patiently for his response. I'm free after breakfast. Mom wants to know if you'd like to come over for lunch. She'll make the veggie rolls for you if you want. 7:14 a.m. Absolutely. That sounds good to me. Want to meet somewhere? Or should I just head to your place? 7:15 a.m. I'm not sure what we are doing yet. My place is fine, or I can meet you somewhere closer. 7:15 a.m. I'll be at your house soon then. It's close enough. See you in a bit. /. 7:16 a.m. I set my phone down. I get dressed in some comfortable clothes, black leggings, a blue shirt, and my cat hoodie. Of course I'm wearing a chest binder too. Gathering my bag and anything I may need, I head downstairs, pulling a pair of shoes on. I start the quick 15-minute walk to his house, taking a slight detour and extending the time. I watch the air fog in my face as I sigh. There's a pleasant energy today, and I feel myself buzz with it. I finally make it to 𝗵𝗃𝗬𝗂's place, knocking on the door. Coming. I hear 𝗵𝗃𝗬𝗂 call from inside. A moment later the door opens and he's in front of me smiling. Sora, you made it. I nod. Of course I did, 𝗵𝗃𝗬𝗂. I say with a bright smile. He gestures me inside. Stepping in, I don't leave the front room as he grabs his stuff and puts his shoes on. We are heading out, Mom. Midoriya calls into the house. His mom's voice calls back. Just a second, Izuku. She appears out of the kitchen, walking towards us. It's good to see you, Sora. You two make sure to stay safe out there. You've both got my number if you need anything. I'll have lunch ready around 12:30, so don't forget. She says warmly. Her arms open for a hug as she steps in front of me. I lean in without hesitation. I smile wide at the warm hug, enjoying her presence. After a moment we pull back and she turns to Midoriya. You too, Izuku. Come here. She says, holding her arms open. Midoriya glances at me a bit embarrassed before hugging his mom. I giggle at him and he rolls his eyes. Come on, Midoriya, you're never too old to hug your mom. I tease. His mom grins at me, nodding along. They pull away and Midoriya turns towards the door. I know that, he mutters before saying, love you, Mom. We will be back later. I wave at her, following him out. See you later, Oba-san. I love you too, Izuku, and see you soon, Sora. You guys have fun. She calls after us. I smile brightly at her words to Midoriya, a small tug on my heart as I hear her say that. We walk down the apartments, making small talk about our mornings so far, but when we get onto the sidewalk we pause. So, any ideas for what we should do today? I ask. Midoriya rubs the back of his neck. I was thinking the arcade, if that's all right with you? He says hesitantly. I nod in excitement, having no problem with his idea, and we make our way down the streets. Midoriya leads me up to a building. I can hear arcade games and see the flashing of screens from the door. The sign at the front says Mizudafu Game Center. I smile at Midoriya and we head inside. It's noisy, there are games sounding off everywhere, but it's not too busy that Sunday morning. I tag along with Midoriya to the front desk and he points down at the card options. I'm going to get a 5,000 yen card to start. What about you, Sora? He asks me. I glance down at what he's talking about, reading over all the options. Why do we need a card? I ask, confused. He looks at me, but before he can respond, a dull voice answers. You buy a card to swipe at each game. It stores the amount of money you put on it as well as your tickets. You bring it back here when you want to trade those tickets for a prize. The female states. I glance up at her in shock before nodding. That makes sense. I'll do a 5,000 yen one as well then. I say nervously. She nods, ringing us up separately before giving us each a card. I sigh as we walk away before I notice Midoriya staring at me. Something wrong? I ask him. His lips purse before he shakes his head. No, it's just... Have you ever been to an arcade? Yes. I fiddle with the arcade card in my hands, bending it slightly. I shake my head. No. Not that I can remember. Maybe when I was younger. I try to think, recalling a couple birthday parties from grade school. Really? Never. He's so shocked. This time I stare at him confused. Maybe a couple times. Is that weird? I ask honestly. He pauses, a hand coming up to his chin. Well, not really, I guess. It's just a bit surprising, I suppose. Especially when this one is nearby. What do you usually do after school? Yes. I shrug. I work, or hang out with my parents, or go and train my quirk. I list off, using a finger for the things I do. Sometimes I go to the park or library too. He watches me as I rattle off my list. You work. Where? Is that why you're always busy after school? I assumed you were in a club. I smile. Nope, no clubs. It's a convenience store a block away from my house. Ashiya's Quick Stop. I stock items in the store after school and clean the machines. It's actually really fun to work there. I recall my job, happy memories flooding me with warmth. Wow, a job and training to go to hero school. All on top of junior high too. You sure do a lot, Sora. It makes me want to work harder too. He says, clenching his fist. I chuckle, shaking my head. You do not want to get a job on top of everything you're doing, Midoriya. From what I've learned about you, you'd work yourself straight to the bone. I think how focused you are on becoming a hero is inspiring, and that takes a lot of work itself. Besides, I'll be having to quit when school does start. I tell him, placing my hand on his shoulder. Enough about work. Show me what's so fun about the arcade. I say excitedly. He nods and we head towards the games. When it comes to the arcades, the games are fun. Walking through the arcade is not, the lights flash and hurt my eyes, and there are so many things to look at it's dizzying. I've succumbed to trailing behind 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 as he takes us to every game. We had just finished skee ball when he brought me to one named DDR. This one may flash too much for you, he states. When I first got overwhelmed he asked if I wanted to leave. I stubbornly said no, and I've been happy we haven't since it's been so much fun. Bring it on. I'll beat you in. I say, reading the abbreviation of the game. He chuckles, stepping onto the mat. I follow suit, staring at the design of it before swiping my card. Dance Dance Revolution. The arrows on the ground match up with the ones on the screen. You need to step on them in time with when they cross that line. He explains, pointing the golden line across the screen. Oh, alright, that seems simple and fun, was what I said at the time, but that was before I started playing. In my rush to switch from the left arrow to the back my ankles collided, tripping myself onto the floor with an audible, oof. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 gasped, but before he could come over to me I sat up and pointed at him. Oh. Keep playing, get the high score 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏. Remember me for what I once was and avenge me. I cried dramatically. Fails to hold back his laughter, missing multiple steps in a row. I pick myself up and rub the elbow that I fell on. I watch as he fumbles and gasp, no. You're losing. I climb back onto my mat and try to keep going. Maybe I can surpass you now. All I needed to do was fall for you to lose focus. I see how it is. He laughs some more, but is also making his steps as needed. In the end he takes first place between us and I fake pout. He nudges me as we step off. There, I avenged you, happy? I scoff. I would have been happier if you had taken the top score. Someone named 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗏 ranked higher than you. I exclaim, pointing at the leaderboard. I can't hold my fake irritation for long before I laugh. He chuckles with me. Ha, yeah, okay. But seriously, are you okay, Sora? Can I check out your arm? He asks, moving to take my arm. I give it to him willingly. I feel fine. I can't believe I tripped like that though. Thankfully we didn't have an audience. I respond. He checks my red elbow and bends my arm a few ways. Seemingly satisfied, he squeezes it slightly. What? You don't want to show off your fancy skills? I'd say that was a solid forward dive. He quips back. I roll my eyes, scoffing at him. Maybe if I do it intentionally, but until then I shouldn't force anyone to watch my jello-looking dance. I respond. I pull my hoodie down slightly as I say this, realizing it had come up in my fall. Jello-looking. What do you mean by that? He asks, confused. I shrug, looking away. Just that I'm too big to be dancing like that is all. I say softly, anyways. What's next? I ask, turning towards him. No. Wait a second. Too big. Sora, there's nothing too big about you. Why would you say that? He asks, his voice gets slightly higher and his face visibly scrunches up. I look at him, shocked by seeing him getting upset. Are you okay? Do you need to take a break? You kind of sound angry. I ask him, lifting my hand to his shoulder. That's because I am angry. He says, grabbing my hand, I really don't like you calling yourself too big. I don't see anything wrong with what you look like. He states seriously. My eyes widen as I watch him. I've just been told. So I thought, I'm sorry, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏. I didn't mean to make you mad. I apologize, feeling guilty. I literally said I would be a great friend towards him, and now I'm making him angry. I really am bad at this. He sighs, running a hand over his face. No, you didn't make me mad. I'm just really upset because you thought that of yourself. It's like if I said I wasn't good enough to be a hero, would you like that? He asks, looking down at me. My eyes narrow and I stare up at him. You're more than good enough to be a hero. I snap, before realizing how worked up I had gotten. I see what you mean. I guess I never thought of it like that. I'll try not to say that again. I promise, I say with a resigned smile. He nods. That's good, but I would love if you didn't think that either. Whoever said that towards you was lying. He steps forwards, grabbing my shoulder with his free hand. I nod, agree. He looks relieved, dropping his head. I stand there awkwardly staring at him before he takes a deep breath and steps back. Alright, next is air hockey. Come on, he says, leading me to the machine. I smile softly, staring at his shirt. Whoever said that was lying. But so many people have said that, it's hard to think they all agreed on the same thing separately. Think to myself, the odd mood doesn't last long as we continue to play games again. Soon we are back at the counter to get some prizes. The place is a bit more busy now. It's good we came so early because there weren't many times we had to wait to play. I glance over the prize counter thinking of what I should get. I notice some keyrings and my eyes light up as I see a cat-themed one. It was 2 chibi cats, interlocked with each other when pressed together. I knew I had to get that. I also got a purple and green fluffy ball-looking keychains. They look like the colors in our hero costumes, I think. Picking them all up, I exchange them for my tickets. I still have a few left over, but decide not to spend them today. I turn back to 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲, who is also getting his prizes, walking over to him with a smile. Look what I got, I say, showing him. I paired the purple ball with the taller cat and the green one with the shorter cat. One for me and one for you. We have each other's colors now, I say excitedly, handing him the purple one. He looks at it fondly, cupping the keychain in his hands. They match. Thanks, I love it, Sora, he says, turning to clip the keychain to his bag as I do the same with mine. When he's done, he grabs his things off the counter. Here. This is for you too. I open my hands as he puts some items into it. There's a pair of sunglasses and a mini Backdraft figurine. My eyes light up and I smile brightly at him. It's Backdraft. That's so cool, thank you a bunch, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲. What's with the sunglasses though? He smiles, rubbing the back of his neck. I figured since you're getting goggles on your hero costume, you might like some sunglasses for when we go to places that overwhelm you. I'm sorry if it's stupid, he says sheepishly. My eyes widen and I look up at him. That sounds great. I never thought of that before. You're always solving the problems I ignore. These are great, I respond, putting the All Might sunglasses on. I look around the arcade. It's still a bit overwhelming, but the flashing lights are dulled and it's harder to make things out. This feels nice, I say softly. He smiles, watching me. I look back towards him and smile back. I step forward, hugging him. Thank you, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲. I had so much fun at the arcade. He wraps his arms around me as well. We take our leave from the arcade, heading back towards his house. Checking the time, it's 11:52 a.m. So we get to his mom's a bit early. During our walk, we talk about our favorite and least favorite games. So far, my favorite one was called Quick Drop. You have to get 50 ball inside 6 containers that revolve in a circle before time's up. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 really liked the Smash Heroes game where you can play as a hero and face off against villains. I didn't get to try all of them, so we'll have to come back another time. So, did you enjoy your first time at an arcade? He asks slowly. We turn at the corner and continue walking down his street. I glance at him before nodding. Yeah. It was awesome. I don't think it would have been as fun without you there though. Thanks for showing me. I'm sorry that you had to teach me so much though, I respond with a smile. My arm rubs nervously at my elbow that I fell on as I say the last part. He shakes his head. No. Don't be sorry. I had a lot of fun too. I'm just curious, are there other things you haven't done like that? He asks as we make it to the apartments. I follow him towards the stairs. I don't know. What do you mean? I respond. He tries to find a way to phrase it. Like, going to the pool or playing mini-golf or even bowling? I can tell he's worried about his question. Never mind, that's a dumb case dash. No, I haven't. My parents both work full-time, so we don't have time for things like that. I remember they took me to an amusement park a while ago, but we don't go out much. Mainly it's museums or public parks when we are able to. I respond, cutting him off. After I was announced quirkless, kids stopped inviting me to hangouts, so I never had anyone to go. What about you? His face shifts into a sad realization. He rubs the back of his neck as he responds, my dad works overseas, so I've never seen him in person before. But because of him, my mom can stay at home and take care of me. It might sound lame, but she's always been the one to take me to those things while growing up. I guess if she was too busy I wouldn't have gone either. He states. I pat his back. I think it's awesome that your mom spends so much time with you. It's not lame at all, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏. I'm really happy you had her to hang out with and have fun. I smile at him as I say this. We walk down the floor of his apartment, but he stops at the door and turns towards me. I never realized just how grateful I am to have a mom who's always here. Thanks, Sora, I won't take her for granted, he states before stepping forward and cupping my hand between his, but we're going to do all those things together now. I promise to show you all kinds of fun things. He declares with a bright look in his green eyes. I stare at him in shock, before smiling as tears well up in my eyes. You can't just say something like that, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏. You're going to make me cry. I sniffle and he pauses in worry, but thank you. I'm excited to do all sorts of fun things together. I say, sniffling. I wipe my eyes as he nods and turns towards the door. He lets us inside and we say hi to his mom. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 hugs her tightly as she laughs, asking where that came from. I smile knowingly before setting out to help her make lunch. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 does the same. He sets the table while I help carry different foods out. The meal is warm, and the veggie rolls are the best veggie rolls I've ever had. I stay till 6 again, before hugging both 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏's and heading home. The house is unusually quiet when I arrive. I find Dad in the living room watching TV. I end up sitting on the couch with him and watching his cop show for a bit before reheating leftovers for dinner. Tonight I go to bed with no worries of being a bad friend. I lay there peacefully drifting off to the thought of seeing the 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏s again. I wake up the next Monday morning, nothing special happening that day. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 and I go back to our daily schedules, his being school and training, and mine being school and work. We message throughout the week randomly, and soon it's Friday, the 20th. Today was 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏's last day at school. I'm just saying it isn't fair. 12:18 p.m. It's just one more day. 12:18 p.m. Why does your school let out today, and mine on a Monday? 12:19 p.m. Who finishes school on a Monday? 12:19 p.m. I don't know, but it can't be that bad. 12:19 p.m. IGTG. Teacher is calling for me. Title 12:19 p.m. Ope, you definitely got in trouble. JKT. 12:20 p.m. You are in. Photo. 12:22 p.m. I sigh, pocketing my phone as I finish lunch. Everyone around me is itching for the last day of school, and I'm right there with them. I finish up my bento before putting it away, smiling at the keychains on my bag as I store the empty dish. The day finishes up normally. Unbeknownst to me, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 is being pinned against a wall by Bakugo as I head home. The teacher had called them in to congratulate the boys for getting into UA, which lead to a off Bakugo. I'm walking home when I feel my phone buzz. Have a nice night at work, Sora. 4:08 p.m. I'll see you tomorrow. Cute cat pic. 4:09 p.m. Thanks. I hope you have a nice night too. 4:09 p.m. Tell your mom I said hi. 4:10 p.m. And it was a pic I took of you. Peach. 4:10 p.m. I don't get another response before I head into work. My night goes by smoothly, and when I get home I realize 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 didn't text again after me. I shoot him another text good night before heading to bed. March 21, 2015. The next day 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 and I meet up early in the morning. We do the same thing we did the first time we met up. After jogging around his route, we head to the junkyard. I pull out my All Might themed sunglasses and show them off as we walk to the back. I hold his hand even though I don't need to. The sunglasses doing great at dimming my sight. He explains we'll be doing a leg day and takes me through the workouts, but as we work we're interrupted as a booming voice calls out into the junkyard. I'm here. Surrounded by trash. He yells. I glance over from where 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 and I were doing squats. I stumble slightly and 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 calls out. Wait. Don't dash, his call is too late. I watch as All Might flies around the corner. Into our area. The #1 hero. In a junkyard with us. I watch as he skids to a halt and stiffens as he realizes there's more than just 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 there. Young 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏. Young Sora. He questions. I look back and forth from 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏 to All Might. Oh, that's All Might. You guys know each other. That's so cool. I nudge 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧's shoulder asking him, I bet he's your fan, right? All Might saw how great of a hero you were in the entrance exams. I exclaim excitedly. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 blushes brightly. What no, it's not like that. All Might just... Well. He tries to explain but fumbles over his words in his embarrassment. After the sludge incident, I've been helping young 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 get stronger. I just check up on him from time to time, All Might states. I stare at the pro before smiling wide and wrapping an arm around 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧. So it was before the entrance exams then. I'm glad you saw how great of a hero he was too, All Might. I point at the hero. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 is super strong and dedicated to becoming a hero. He's going to become one of the best, so don't take your eyes off him. I cheer. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 covers his face with his hands, mumbling unintelligibly as he's praised so highly in front of All Might. I stare at All Might, who raises his hand to cover his mouth slightly. Yes, that's correct. He will be, he coughs slightly. I'm sorry, I can come around another time if you'd like. I don't want to interrupt your training. He's strained. I feel 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 stiffen and I assume he doesn't want All Might to leave. I mean, who would? And noticing All Might's awkward behavior, I can take that he probably wants to talk to 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧 alone. Oh, it's fine. I'll head out. I can't take 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧's time away from his favorite hero. I say. Letting go of 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧𝗧, I rush over to grab my things. Sora, wait. You don't have to go, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧𝗧 starts, his hand reaching out towards me. I pull out 2 protein bars and toss them at All Might. You guys can snack on these. I say, interrupting 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧𝗧. As All Might catches the bars, I wink at them. Don't worry, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧𝗧. I don't mind. Besides, this gives you time to figure out how you're going to explain this to me later. I tease him. I bow towards All Might. Thank you for everything you do, All Might, and for looking out for 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧𝗧. I'll see you at school, sir. Yes. I shall see you at UA. Congratulations on getting in, Sora. All Might responds. Throwing on my sunglasses, I race out of the junkyard. Whoa, it's not every day you see All Might in person, and to learn 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧𝗧 meets with him regularly. My friend is so awesome. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧𝗧's 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧𝗧. I feel myself stiffen as the well-known voice barks out into the junkyard. All Might doesn't know Sora is here. What if he transforms back in front of her? Wait. Don't dash, but I'm too late. All Might comes flying around the corner. He seems shocked to see Sora there, which makes sense. I feel my face turning red as Sora keeps talking about how All Might is my fan. It's so embarrassing, but at the same time it makes me smile. I can't properly explain the situation as my head gets warm. I notice All Might's strained voice, realizing he doesn't have much time left, and stiffen. Before I can even try to protect him, Sora is rushing off to leave. I stare into the junkyard where I last saw her. Once we hear the door close, All Might releases his form, coughing a bit of 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧𝗧. I didn't think you brought anyone back here. I guess I should have warned you. All Might says, rubbing the back of his neck. And no, well, I didn't before. But her and I have been training together. I respond. Feeling turned around from the way Sora left, I slide a hand over my face. Was there something you needed, All Might? Extra training or news? He shakes his head, tossing me one of the protein bars Sora left. No, kid. I was just checking in on you. I figured you'd be here. That's quite the friend you have. How long have you known young Sora? He asks, opening his own bar and eating it. That's good. And since the entrance exams, we were in the same group. She waited for me in the infirmary and we became friends. I look down at the bar in my hands. My grip clenches as I realize I don't know how to explain this situation to you. I'm going to have to lie to my first friend. I don't realize I've said that out loud until All Might pats my shoulder. She seems like she would understand. With how fast she left, I think she respects you and would be happy with any answer you give her. Now don't let her protein bar go to waste. He states. You're right. She's fast at reading me. I didn't even have to say this was important for her to figure it out. I smile, opening the protein bar and taking a bite. She's a good friend, but can you help me figure out what to tell her? I ask, looking up at All Might seriously. Kasei's 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧. I head out of the junkyard and I can't help the grin on my face. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 knows his hero. And they seem close. That's amazing. While I'm sad I had to leave, I'm content knowing 𝗵𝗃𝗧 is having fun. I decide to head to his mom's house while I wait for them, knowing 𝗵𝗃𝗧 will be back for lunch. That's just over an hour away, I say, glancing at my watch. It's 11:13 a.m. When I make it to 𝗵𝗃𝗧's home. I knock on the door as I wait. Oh, coming. I hear his mom inside. I smile while waiting. She opens the door. Who is Sora? What are you doing here alone? Why did you knock? She asks, surprised to see me. Hi again, Oba-san. 𝗵𝗃𝗧 actually met up with someone he knew, so he sent me ahead. He will be back for lunch though. I say with a smile. Oh, that's all right, but why did you knock, dear? Next time just come on in, you don't have to wait outside. She says, stepping aside so I can walk in. I don't. But I couldn't intrude. I start to state. There will be none of that, dear. You're welcome here anytime you want. I don't want to catch you knocking on my door again, got it? She says sternly in her mom voice. Why yes ma'am, I say seriously while bowing. She chuckles, shaking her head. Come on, there's no need to bow. But since you're here, how about I show you something? She says cunningly. I lift my head up, blinking at her tone, and wonder about what's going to happen. Time skip. 𝗵𝗃𝗧 makes his way up the stairs, 2 steps at a time. Sora didn't respond to his messages, but he hopes she's at his house like they had been doing on the weekends. He makes it inside and smiles as he sees her worn shoes by the door. I'm back. 𝗵𝗃𝗧 calls into the house, but there's no response. Guys? He asks, walking farther in. He hears my squeal and rushes into the living room only to freeze at what he sees. Oh my gosh, he is so cute. Look at that onesie. I say, gushing over the pictures. 𝗵𝗃𝗧's mom laughs. He wouldn't take that off for the whole week. I had to buy extras just so he was always wearing a clean one. She comments, looking over the pictures of toddler 𝗵𝗃𝗧 in an all-might onesie. You guys, we both look up as 𝗵𝗃𝗧 stands there. His face is so red, I could probably cook on it. Oh hey 𝗵𝗃𝗧, how was your talk? I ask. His mom flips the page and I start cooing over mini 𝗵𝗃𝗧 again. Oi, look how scared he looks going down the slide. That's adorable. Talk. It was fine, but that's not important right now. He comes up on his mom's side. Why are you showing her these? Mom, that's so embarrassing. He whines, blushing. Oh Izuku, I finally have the chance to show your friends how charming you are. The second Sora came here alone I knew I had to show her. Don't be embarrassed, son. You look so cute. She chides, pinching his cheek. I giggle at the display. She's right. You're very cute in all of these. I could spend all day looking at them. I chime in. 𝗵𝗃𝗧 pulls his face away from his mom's hands and hides behind his own. That is so not fair. I don't see any of your baby pictures, Sora. He whines. His mom and I both laugh at him. I quickly pull out my phone and take a picture of him with the baby photos in the frame. As I put the phone away I hum. You're right, but I've never seen my baby photos. I can ask my mom tonight and bring them over tomorrow. Would that be fair? I ask him. He peeks through his fingers and sighs loudly. I guess. But you're not allowed to look at any more of mine until then. Got it? He utters out. His mom laughs, closing the book as I agree. She gets up and I walk over to 𝗵𝗃𝗧, ruffling his hair. He swats my hand away embarrassed and I laugh at him as we go to lunch. His mom asks 𝗵𝗃𝗧 about his friend he met with. I listen to 𝗵𝗃𝗧's lie and nod along. I'm glad I didn't say it was all might and just said someone he knew. I wouldn't want to put 𝗵𝗃𝗧 in a tough spot. We head to his room afterwards. I lean against him as we sit on the floor against his bed. He's got notebook number 11 out, but he hasn't started reading it. Aren't you going to ask? He says softly. I lift my head from his shoulder and turn to look at him. Ask what? I say confused. He sighs, leaning his head back against the bed. All Might was right. You really do respect me. I figured you would be asking how I know All Might. It's not every day you learn of the #1 heroes checking in on a kid. He says, staring at the ceiling. I hum, shrugging. I didn't think it was my place to ask. If you wanted me to know you would have told me. I figured it was a secret though. You confirmed that when you didn't tell your mom at lunch. I say with a smile. Then lean forward and look at him worriedly. Did you get in trouble because I found out? I ask softly. His head turns to me. What? All Might was just happy we were friends. I think he realized you wouldn't tell anyone with the way you left. But if you want to ask me anything about it, you can. He finishes, leaning forwards as well. I hum, staring at his face. Do you enjoy talking to All Might? As well as training under him? I ask softly. He looks surprised, answering quickly. Yeah. I enjoy it a lot. I've become so much closer to using my quirk because of him. I'm happy that he's chosen to teach me. He says seriously, a fond look in his eyes. I smile back. Then that's all I need to know. Unless you want to talk about him, but I won't pry if it's supposed to be a secret, okay? He stares at me for a moment before shaking his head. You really are strange, Sora. But thank you. I'll think of what to say. He responds. With how earnest my answer was, he can't bring himself to use the lie he and All Might. Carefully constructed. I deserve more than that if I'm being so considerate of him. I scoff. That's a compliment. And okay, you can tell me whenever. So, who's next in your hero notes? I ask, sitting back up. Midoriya stares up at me, before smiling and sitting up as well. Next is 𝗵𝗃𝗲. He's actually one of the UH staff. So we should see him in the future. I nod, watching his notebook and listening to him as he goes over his notes. I lean my head against his shoulder again, content to be here with him. I couldn't imagine not having Midoriya as my friend anymore. Life without him seems cold and dark. Not in a good way. Later that night I make it home before 7. Once again Mom isn't there. I walk over to the living room and hug my dad, who's on the couch. Hey Dad, do I have any baby pictures? He hums, not focusing on me as his show is playing. I sigh, leaning into him as I wait for the commercial. When it comes on, he squeezes me in a hug. Welcome back home, sweetheart. What was it you needed? This. I giggle into the hug and ask again. He pauses, pulling back. I know you do, but I don't know where your mom put them. They might be in the basement. He says, scratching his head. My eyes widen. In the basement? I repeat, my face scrunching up. The thing is, my mom is a bit of a hoarder. So everything she brings in goes down to the basement. We've tried cleaning it out before, but she wants things in a specific way and gets mad fast if you don't do it correctly. Oh, I can ask her tomorrow then. I say. Dad and I chat for a moment about our days, before the commercial is over and his show comes on. He nods, staring at the TV again. Yeah, I can drive you, he says before I lose his attention. I smile at him, then head to the kitchen. I start dinner eating alone in the kitchen. I decide to head to bed early that night, finishing my nightly routine before laying in bed. I'm headed to bed. Good night, Midoriya. Z 8:44 p.m. Don't forget about those baby photos. 8:44 p.m. Good night, Sora. 8:44 p.m. I smile at his quick response and reminder. I didn't forget. See you tomorrow. 8:45 p.m. March 22, 2015. I woke up the next morning feeling more tired than usual. I groan, rolling out of bed. I wipe at my eyes and check the time on my phone. 5:32 a.m. Stupid morning schedule. I mumble, putting the device in my pocket. I head downstairs to the bathroom, passing Mom on my way there and wishing her a good morning. After I brush my teeth, I check my phone, rereading Midoriya's texts from last night. That's right, I have to ask Mom, I say with a yawn. I finish in the bathroom and head to the kitchen where she's on her computer. Morning, Mom. Can I ask you something? She glances up from her laptop. Make it quick, I've got a lot to do right now, she says, running a hand through her hair. It's an obvious sign of how stressed she is at the moment. If I was more awake, I would have realized that and not have asked her, but my tired state didn't pick up on it. Do you know where my baby photos are? Dad said that they are in the basement. I mumble slightly, still feeling tired. She clicks her tongue. Oh. I don't know where those are, and for Christ's sake, don't mumble when you're asking something. I don't have time to wait for you to talk properly. She spits. I wake up slightly from her tone, moving to step back. Oh. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to dash, no, you never do. It doesn't matter what I do for you around here. You always want something new from me. Why aren't you capable enough to go look for them yourself? Why do I have to be the one you bother over stupid things? She grows more irate. I feel my throat close up, unable to respond. I breathe in deeply, clenching my jaw. After a few breaths I relax, my mind going quiet as I respond, I'm sorry. You're right, I was being ungrateful. I say. My ears sound like I'm underwater as she continues ranting at me before she slumps into her chair. I've got a lot going on with this new drink right now. And nobody around here seems to want to help me, so I won't be helping you. Figure it out yourself, Kasii. She finishes, getting up to refill her coffee. I nod, turning away. Okay, Mom. I won't get in your way again. I respond, leaving the room. She doesn't say anything, so I continue down to the basement. When I descend the stairs, I feel tears prick my eyes as the pressure in my head evaporates. I sniffle, wiping at my cheeks. Don't be a baby. She didn't even hit you. There's no reason to cry. I scold myself. I realize I've been crying more than usual since I met 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲. I giggle. He still cries a lot more than I do. I say softly. I search through the basement, digging through random boxes, books, and shelves. When 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲's morning text comes through, I take a break to respond to him. Good morning, Sora. 6:43 a.m. Morning, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲. I'll see you in a bit. 6:44 a.m. I get back to searching as my phone vibrates again. I ignore it, trying to find the pictures. Just as I'm about to give up, I knock over a box. Papers spill out of it. Shoot, I hope these weren't important. I say, bending over to clean them up. I stop surprised as the corner of a picture peeks out between some of them. Pulling it out, I see a picture of mini-me in a booster seat eating cake. It's smashed all over my face. There's a thin, happy-looking woman in the picture, who I barely recognize as my mom. Cute, I say softly. I dig through the papers and finding 4 other photos. One of me opening a present, one in a bubble bath, another asleep while holding a toy phone to my cheek, and lastly one of me eating watermelon with 2 other kids older than me. My face is stained red as I stare at the fruit hungrily, the kids smiling at the camera. I look younger than 3 in all the pictures. I smile at my success, putting the papers away back into the box. It's not much, but it's something, I say excitedly. I rush upstairs, grabbing my bag and other stuff. I put the pictures in my bag and head out the door without saying goodbye. I rush over to 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲's house, letting myself in when I get there. I'm here. I call hesitantly into the house. His mom smiles at me as she comes into the entryway. Welcome back, Sora. I'm glad you didn't knock this time. She says. I feel my chest warm up. Welcome back. I like how that sounds. It's almost like a welcome home. I think to myself with a soft smile. Me too. Is 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲 in his room? I ask, taking my shoes off. She shakes her head, gesturing to the dining table. He's eating breakfast, feel free to join if you'd like. She says. I nod and head that way following her. I snort as I see 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲 with a piece of bacon hanging out of his mouth. You look hungry, I tease. His head turns towards me and he covers his mouth with his hand. Shoving the bacon into his mouth and chewing it quickly, he goes to respond. Sora, you here? He mumbles around the food. I snort at him as his mother scolds him for his manners. He swallows before repeating himself. You're here. Are you hungry? I feel my stomach growl, which is odd. I didn't feel hungry at home, my stomach was too tense to even think of food, but here I can't help and feel like I'm starving. I may have skipped breakfast to get here earlier, I fib. They both look at me with a reprimanding gaze. I put my hands up and sit in the chair next to 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲. I'll eat. They both smile as we eat breakfast. When I finish my servings, I remember my bag. I pull it off my back and turn towards 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲. I wasn't allowed to bring the whole book. Mom doesn't want me to damage it. But she let me bring some already stained photos, so here. I hand 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲 the 5 baby photos I brought, watching his face as he looks at them. He snorts, covering his mouth. You actually. Of course you would. Oh my gosh, look at you. 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲. I feel myself get embarrassed at his tone, but I try to hide my reaction and act normally. I agreed to do this, so why am I feeling like this now? Him and his mom look over the 5 photos together, both talking about how cute mini-me was. By the end of it, my face is hiding in my arms on the table, waiting for it all to end. I feel a hand on my shoulder and peek up from my arms. Thank you, Sora. You really didn't have to bring these though. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 says as he holds the pictures out to me, looking down fondly. I smile, looking at him, then his mom, no, it was only fair. I saw yours. Besides, now I understand why you got so embarrassed. I giggle, taking the photos. His mom gets up from the table as 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 and I keep talking. I hold the baby pictures in my hand, and he rubs the back of his neck. Both of our faces are red when there's a flash. Our heads snap towards his mom together, as she stands there holding a camera in her hands. You guys looked so cute just now. I had to capture the moment, she says from behind the camera. I look shocked as 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 begins to whine, then there's another flash. He gets up this time, trying to take the camera from his mom, and I can't help myself from bursting out in laughter. I don't notice as both 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 stop and looks at me, his mom taking another picture. He smiles softly at me as I wipe a tear out of my eye staring at them, delighted to be here. After that we clean up breakfast, then 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 and I head out for a bit. What's the plan today? I ask him as we walk. He smiles, turning towards me. Would you rather do an escape room, go to the movie theater, or play mini golf? Yes. I rub the back of my neck while I think. They all sound fun, but I think I'll go with mini golf if that's okay? I ask. I don't feel quite in the mood for something so mentally taxing like an escape room. I don't want to just sit around and watch something at the moment either though. So mini golf sounded like the best option, and to my relief he nods at me. Linking his arm with mine, he points ahead. To mini golf it is then. He calls. I grin as we head off. While playing I learn I'm pretty average when it comes to golf. Not terrible but not sport-worthy, just in between. 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 is actually pretty good at it, but his shots take a while. I watch as he mutters again about the next hole, debating what the best method of hitting the ball he would need to use. I don't quite understand it, but he's mainly hitting holes in 1 and 2 pars, so I think he knows what he's doing. We wrap up and have lunch at his mom's again, telling her about how much fun we had playing together. I tease 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 for his calculations and how long his shots took. His mom laughs with me as he blushes, sputtering a retort back. That night when I go to leave she stops to hand me some pictures. Surprised I look down and see the 3 she took during lunch. In the first 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 and I are staring at each other, gazing at each other fondly as we talk. The second I look shocked as 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 has his arm out in front of him, seemingly appalled. The third catches me off guard, it's only of me, and I'm laughing. I've never seen myself look so happy before, and something in me feels lighter when I see the picture. I thank her while hugging her tightly. I don't know how she always manages to shock me, and I don't think I ever will, but her actions make me happier than I ever thought they could. I give 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗵𝗲 a hug too before leaving. Nobody is around when I get home. After my usual routine I head to my room, tucking the pictures away in my sketchbook with a smile, before going to bed happily. March 23, 2015. It's Monday, my last day of school, and it was probably the longest day of school in my life. After the end of the year assembly I was released to lunch, only to be called by my teacher to the office. I head there, tired and hungry as I'm led to the school career advisor. Sora, thanks for coming in. I just wanted to discuss your school of choice. I bow before sitting in front of him. She continues, good job getting into UA. I was surprised when I read you got into the Heroes course. I don't know why they allowed quirkless kids to apply this year, but that seems to have worked in your favor. She praises, and I nod, smiling awkwardly. This was a talk I was dreading. I knew I wouldn't be able to keep the schools from talking to each other, so I knew it was coming. Thankfully my parents hardly actually read what the school sends them. Thank you, ma'am. I state politely. She nods before leaning forwards. Remember you represent 𝗳𝗏𝗄𝗏 Junior High while you're going to UA. If you fail out of the hero course, it reflects on us. Honestly, I wouldn't have let you apply to these schools if I had known, but I didn't think our quirkless student would aim that high. She says cheerfully as if it's a joke. Remember to do your best, we will be rooting for you, Sora. I nod, a fake smile plastered across my face. Thank you for your support, ma'am. I'll try my best. I respond stiffly. She says a few more things before I'm allowed to leave. I sigh, walking outside to eat my last lunch at this school, but before I could my bag is tugged roughly. I 𝗬𝗃𝗃 around to see a hand disappearing in a portal with my keychain clutched in his grip. No dash, I yell, but the hand is gone. I feel my BLD freeze over before I begin running around the school. Despite the way my stomach growls, I can only focus on the fact that my keychain was taken, nothing else mattering to me. I search all over throughout lunch, checking all the usual spots for where my things were hidden in the past. In the end, I'm unable to find my keychain, so I begin to look for the kids who took it instead. I call out their names as I run around, Takashi and 𝗬𝗵𝗲, followed by a desperate, please, give it back, but nobody answers. I'm scolded by teachers for running around and yelling, but I keep searching as lunch ends. When I get to the classroom, I'm almost late, but instead of going to my seat, I stand at the front of the room. Sora, what are you doing? It may be the last day of school, but this is still my classroom. Take a seat, my teacher says. I shake my head, staring down at the two boys, sitting at their desks. I'm sorry, sensei, but I can't. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 and Takashi took something from me and I need it back. I state firmly. They both look surprised at me and the teacher sighs. Whatever you took, give it back to her now, boys. He states annoyed. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 speaks up, we didn't do anything, sensei. I swear, I didn't even see Sora during lunch. He promises. Takashi remains quiet as I stare him down, his eyes not leaving mine. Did you see them take it, Sora? The teacher asks me. Not exactly, I saw his hand dash. He cuts me off. You're interrupting my class because you lost something and are blaming them based on seeing a hand. Don't be ridiculous, sit down right now. He scowls, stepping closer to me. I turn towards him with wide eyes. But no. I won't deal with this on the last day of school. You can talk it out after the day ends. That is final, now sit down before you get in trouble on your last day. That wouldn't look good on your record, seeing as how you got into UA. He states firmly. Some of the students gasp as he reveals this. I clench my fist, staring down Takashi as I go to my seat. I feel so powerless that I want to cry. I look away from him as tears well up in my eyes, staring down at my desk instead. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 speaks up, sensei. Did you say Sora made it into UA? She asks in a shocked outrage. Enough. You can talk after class, I will be teaching my class now. He demands. Everyone settles down. I continue to stare at my desk as my fists clench tightly together, trembling from how upset I am. The teacher continues to talk, explaining a summary of everything we learned in his class this year. I'm able to control how I feel again by the time classes end, no longer on the verge of tears. I was worried I'd have to hunt Takashi and 𝗬𝗵𝗲 down after class, but they were waiting for me in the hall with 𝗵𝗃𝗲. Takashi his head right, a silent command to follow him. I grit my teeth, but follow as the three trail down the hallway. We weave through other students, making our way near the sports club corridor where there's nobody else around. Takashi stops, but it's 𝗵𝗃𝗲 who speaks first. So is it true? You managed to get into UA? She asks, her face twisted into a glare. I've never seen her this mad before. My eyes scan over all of them. Takashi hasn't faced me yet, and 𝗬𝗵𝗲 seems to be waiting for 𝗵𝗃𝗲 before he does anything. Just the general studies department? I say slowly. If I didn't control my pace, I feared I would end up yelling. I don't want to have this conversation, I just want my keychain back. Just general studies. Are you trying to say that the department is beneath the rest of the school? It doesn't matter which course you go to. They are all UA. She snaps at me while stepping forwards. You're right. I shouldn't say that. I say, taken aback. I don't understand why she's so upset, but then 𝗬𝗵𝗲 speaks up. Yeah. Didn't you know she applied there too? If 𝗵𝗃𝗲 couldn't get into the general studies program, how did you, Sora? He says nastily, crossing his arms and leaning towards us. Before I can respond, 𝗵𝗃𝗲 turns towards him and snaps. Shut up. She doesn't need to know that. She shrieks at him. I watch the two of them, realizing why she's so upset. Even though the school doesn't specify it, the General Studies Department at UA has every option of learning. Going to that school can promise the best education and has the highest school-to-job hiring ratio in the country. I feel my anger cool, guilt growing there instead. I'm lying to them, I didn't get into general studies at all, but because she thinks I did, Muraoka is feeling her failure even more than she did before. For as long as I've known you, Takashi begins to say, turning towards the three of us. His eyes staring into mine, I've never seen you get as upset as you did today. You never reacted so much when we took anything of yours. So what's so DMN special about this keychain? He asks, turning to face me. I notice his face is neutral, unlike the usual carefree attitude he displays in class. It's a gift I share with a friend. It means a lot to me. I respond coolly. He confirmed that he knows of the keychain. Getting mad now may mean I'll never see it again. So I have to act calmly just like I always do. Just do what they want and it won't get worse. His eyes widen, but Muraoka speaks up before he can. Friend. Nobody in this school would even talk to you. Her voice is higher than normal. Her breathing picking up slightly. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 laughs. I bet that's why she's been laughing in class. She thinks she made a friend. It's probably just in her imagination. He calls, pointing at me, not even trying to conceal his amusement. That's not important right now. How did a quirkless nobody get into you? Why you and not me? I was supposed to be better than you. She demands. I watch as she steps closer, her body seems to be wound up, and I recognize what's coming. Her hand raises, but as I tense up and wait for the hit, there's nothing. I look up, and see Takashi holding Muraoka's raised hand. I watch them confused. Why did he stop her? Nothing is making sense right now. Why can't they just give me my keychain and leave me alone? She grits her teeth, glaring at him, and pulling her hand away. Whatever. She's going to fail UA anyways. Nobody is going to be nice to a quirkless kid in that school. Come on, 𝗬𝗵𝗲. She says, moving to leave. He quickly goes to follow her. I quickly step in front of them. Wait. My keychain. I want it back. I can't let them leave until I get it back. I threw that thing away. It wasn't worth anything, she remarks. Her smirk is cold as she stares at me. Normally I would give in by now, but I couldn't. Even though it's a simple keychain, it meant so much to me. I feel my heart drop. There's no way they did that. Right? Get out of our way, 𝗬𝗵𝗲 orders, trying to get between Muraoka and I. My eyes turn to him. You're the one who took it. Where is it, 𝗬𝗵𝗲? I must have had a scary look on my face, because even he seemed surprised by the harshness in my voice. I stare him down, trying to think of where he would have it, ready to pull it off his body. Hey Sora, Takashi says. I don't respond as I stare down 𝗬𝗵𝗲. I'm trying to figure out where my keychain would be when I see Takashi step closer. There's a flash of green in my peripheral vision and I look over at his hand. My keychain. Give it back, Takashi. I state urgently. I walk around the others, headed towards him. He smiles while dangling it on his fingers. There's that look again. Why does this make you so angry? Why does some cheap keychain from some loser matter so much? He demands. I continue to walk forward, only for something to block my leg, almost tripping me. I look down, seeing 𝗬𝗵𝗲's portal at my feet, and his hand gripping my ankle. My brows furrow, I glare at the hand before snapping my head up to Takashi. He's not a loser. He's my friend. He's the only one my age who has ever treated me with kindness without caring if I have a quirk or not. I say honestly. The hand around my ankle tightens, probably angry that I yelled at Takashi. I think about kicking it off, slamming my foot into his wrist, just something to remove it. The second that thought goes through my body, I feel a chill spread over me. What am I doing? Why am I so angry? I was going to kick my classmate's hand, out of anger. I'd be just like my parents. I take a deep breath in and hold it, trying to calm down. I see the keychain in Takashi's hand and try to relax. It's right there, it's fine. I can still get it back. You have no right to talk to Takashi that way. Muraoka yells. I feel her grip my short hair, pulling my head back. I clench my teeth together and peer ahead. Another portal opens, this time under my keychain. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 hand pushes through holding a lighter. "Oh, stop please." I cry. The pain from my hair dulls as the panic rises to my throat, drowning out any other feeling. I pull against Muraoka's tight grip, trying to move forward towards my dangling keychain. Takashi looks taken aback, but he isn't fast enough to pull his hand away before the lighter flicks on. The flame hits the green fluffy ball, and I can't stop myself from teleporting it. "What? It's gone," Takashi says. His hand was pulled back, trying to get the keychain out of the flames, but the keychain was no longer in his. I breathed a sigh of relief, feeling the soft ball in my hand. I squeeze it tightly, concealing it. I feel the hand in my hair let go, as Muraoka steps back. "What? Was that a Quirk's?" She looks around, trying to see who was watching us. "CRP, it's probably a teacher. We should go," 𝗬𝗵𝗲 says, his portals closing as he moves to run. He has no interest in getting caught, especially when he's the one who had a lighter. "I'm out of here. Good luck at UA," Muraoka says sarcastically. "Maybe you can recommend me while you're there, then I can take your spot when you get kicked out." She shoves me forwards as she and 𝗬𝗵𝗲 leave, but Takashi doesn't move. He stares at me surprised. I watch as his hand slowly lowers from where it was hovering in the air. His gaze focuses on my hands and I hide my clenched fists behind my back. He steps closer to me as the others leave him behind. That was you just now, wasn't it?" he asks calmly. I stare at him, not saying anything in my frazzled state. I turn to leave now that I have my keychain back, but he starts laughing. My head snaps back to him shocked. The sound was startling, but despite the laughter, he doesn't have a happy look on his face. "Why, you had a quirk this whole time." He laughs, covering half of his face with one hand. I step back slightly and he gets a hold of himself. Clearing his throat, his hand swipes through his hair as he tries to contain his laughter. "Wow, seriously? If you had a quirk this whole time?" He watches me with something I can't understand in his eyes. He steps forwards, moving to put a hand on my shoulder, but I flinch away. His hand pauses in the air and he nods. I see, then dropping his hand he frowns. "You were never going to look at me that way." He trails off. My eyebrows furrow. "That way?" I ask softly. My head spins. The stressful situation was over so fast, and now he knows of my quirk. Whatever reaction I expected when someone learned about my quirk, this wasn't it. I squeeze the keychain for support, trying to understand what he was saying. "What are you talking about?" He shoves a hand in his pocket. "I just wanted." He thinks of a memory, a time he saw me outside of school. The happy face I had while playing with a stray kitten. It had surprised him. He had never seen you smile like that at school. He wanted to see it again. But he could never get you to smile properly. You always had that fake smile on your DMN face. And then recently you started to smile to yourself, because of someone else. It doesn't matter. I was never going to get what I wanted. I see that now. He finishes. I watch confused as he turns to leave. "Thank you," I say softly. I probably only say it because my head is still reeling from the whole ordeal, but I know I meant it. He freezes, turning back to me. "What?" His eyes are wide, as if he wasn't sure he heard me correctly. I shuffle from foot to foot. "I shouldn't have said anything. You tried to pull it out of the fire, so thank you," I say while looking down. There's a moment of silence that's broken with his laughter. He shakes his head in disbelief. "Don't thank the person who took it in the first place. Geez, Sora, you're so weird." He looks me over again before sighing. "Goodbye, Sora," and then he's gone. Neither of us saying another word. Just like that, I stand alone in the empty hallway and realize my days of junior high are over. Even with what just happened, it feels tame compared to the fear I felt the moment my keychain was over that fire. My hand uncurls around the keychain and I smile down at it. Despite the singed fuzz, it's in one piece and I can't help but feel relieved by that. I decide to brush everything that just happened off. It's over now, and I most likely won't ever see them again. Feeling too emotionally drained to make my way back through the school, I decide to teleport home instead. I had forgotten I missed lunch, spending the break searching for my keychain instead, so it surprises me when I stumble slightly. My head spins as I go to make my way out of the alleyway, but I'm confused as I realize I'm not in it, nor am I on my street. I look around the familiar street, not sure why I teleported here instead of the one by my house.